Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping the manhwa Baby Princess Through the Window. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it helps us a lot. Enjoy! Meet Damian Erveldote, Princess of the Erveldote Empire. When she was young, Damian enjoyed the luxuries of princess life, until one day, she was executed. Public sentiment turned violent toward her, because they saw her as arrogant and indulgent. Even worse, she couldn't practice magic, so there were claims that she had no right to be a princess. In the end, Damian was sentenced to death. By her own father, no less. Can you believe that? Her dad stood by while she was executed, even approved the order himself. What kind of dad would do that? But Damian's story didn't end there, because after being killed, she woke up as her 5-year-old self. Isn't that crazy? Like any normal person, Damian thought she was dreaming at first. But life carried on just as it did when she was younger, being awoken by her maid and shepherded to meals. It didn't take long to realize that she'd acquired some extra abilities with this second chance. Now she can see status boxes above people's heads, and even read their thoughts. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. Especially since Sarah, Damian's favorite maid, turns out to really hate her. I feel so bad for this princess. There really is no one she can trust. What's worse is that Damian doesn't have full control over this 5-year-old body. If she doesn't want to be hated and end up with her head in a basket, Damian is going to have to figure out how to get more control over this baby princess. And she's gonna need to do it ASAP, because her father, the emperor, the guy who literally sentenced her to death, is en route to the palace at this very moment. But in a shocking twist, Emperor Adrian's status box shows more affection for his daughter than anyone we've seen so far. Damian is totally stunned to see how much he favors her. It makes her wonder if maybe things will be different in this life. Overcome by emotion, the little princess rushes forward and grabs his coat. Uh-oh, is this going to turn his mood sour? Actually, no. Adrian thinks it's super cute. Though you wouldn't know it from his face. This guy looks so moody. It's no surprise Damian is doubting whether the status windows are real or not. I mean, look at him. Does that face say adorable and loving to you? The grown-up Damian has so many things to say to her father, but once again, the 5-year-old takes over and she ends up screaming, "Red!" Nice one, bestie. That's really gonna turn things in your favor. The Emperor's butler suggests that Damian is asking to have dinner with him, which is not wrong. What she was trying to say was that they should have tea together, so close enough. And even better, it earns her loads of favorability points. While getting ready for their dinner, Sarah is especially harsh brushing her hair. Meanwhile, another maid by the name of Ellie, who Damian always thought of as hateful and strict, turns out to have a soft spot for the princess. It seems like everything's in reverse. All the people who seem to like her are mean, and all the people who are mean are actually worried for her. When she finally arrives at dinner, Damian is worried. There's a lot of pressure on her to be polite and earn the favor of her father and brother, who decided to join them. Apparently, the crown prince, her older brother Damian Erveldote, was always cold and indifferent in her past life. Probably because he's the legitimate son of the emperor, while she was born out of wedlock from the emperor's harem. The three of them sit down for a very awkward meal. But even though Damian isn't doing anything, her father's favorability continues to rise. And the even bigger surprise is that Damian's status box is also really positive. So positive, in fact, that he seems kind of obsessed with her. Despite the awkward silences, the emperor is very kind during the meal, worrying about his daughter's health and telling her to eat her fill. Damian is torn. As a princess, she's been told to watch her weight and never eat too much, or else it will ruin her image. Which is totally gross, but I guess it's just that kind of kingdom. But seeing how much joy it gives her father, the princess gives in. So overall, the dinner is a success. But trouble starts again the moment she returns to her room. Horrible Sarah immediately scolds her for eating too much, and says the queen is angry with her for overindulging. Apparently, the people in this palace are so sick and twisted that sometimes they lay traps and tests for her. It looks like the dinner tonight was one of them, designed by the queen to check her self-restraint. They even decide to punish her by not giving her any meals tomorrow. What the heck kind of backward society is this? I can't believe they're being so mean to a little 5-year-old. The next morning, Sarah doesn't come in like usual to wake her up. Poor Sherbian's stomach still hurts from overeating last night, but she doesn't want to lay in bed. One of the things people berated her for in her past life was being lazy and indulgent, so she has to be more attentive this time. Soon, Ellie arrives with news that the Emperor has something to tell her. Sherbian thinks it's about her behavior at dinner, but then a group of maids comes running into her room. They get down on their knees and start crying, begging for her forgiveness and saying it was all Sarah's fault. I have no idea what they're talking about, but Sherbian can see that despite their acting, none of them is actually sorry. Honestly, is there not a single nice person in this palace? Actually, Ellie seems to have genuine concern for the princess and tries to chase the girls out so she can get some rest. Then suddenly the Emperor himself shows up, and he seems mad as heck. He orders all the servants to be locked in the dungeon for the crime of not looking after his daughter properly. But when he takes Ellie too, Sherbian has to speak up. She wants to explain how Ellie has been the only one looking after her, but the 5-year-old takes over and she sort of just cries. Kind of relatable, honestly. Moved by his daughter's tears, Emperor Adrian promotes Ellie to become Sherbian's personal maid. Finally, another win! Maybe she should be worried about what's going to happen to all those mean maids, but I can't blame her for enjoying this small victory. After the whole mean maid fiasco, the Emperor takes his daughter to the gardens for some tea and cake to check on her well-being. She can't really enjoy it because she's super stressed about how to act and keep his favor. I mean, who wouldn't be? If I'd gone through everything she had in the last 24 hours, I think I'd given up by now. And again, she has the pressure of deciding whether to eat or not. Seriously, this is so messed up. How could a 5-year-old already be thinking about her weight? Let the girl eat cake already! Luckily, her dad guesses her concerns and tells her to eat comfortably, promising to keep her table manners to himself. She gives in and has a macaron, watching his favorability points go up literally thousands just watching her eat. I don't know how this guy ended up executing his daughter. He's literally whipped for her. She accidentally eats too many, but then her dad offers her cake too and even uses his magic to make it nice and cool. All that is sweet, but the best thing her dad has done is fire Sarah. Now that Ellie is her personal maid, she seems a lot happier and smiles more. They get her all dressed up for a meeting with the queen, Alderuan Erveldote. In her past life, Queen Alderuan was always kind and gentle to Sherbian. But if we've learned anything so far, it's not to trust how people acted in her past life. And what do you know, the queen is just the same. Her favorability is literally in the minus thousands. Even just at the sight of Sherbian makes her upset. I have a feeling we've just met the real villain of this series. Despite how hateful her thoughts are, the queen is all smiles and niceties. She's totally fake, acting all concerned over the incident with Sarah, and even pretending to take responsibility herself. It's actually scary how two-faced she can be. When Sherbian admits she and the Emperor went to his private garden, the queen's favorability plummets. It's pretty obvious that she's trying to steer the princess away from her father, since she keeps telling her he's a scary man and saying she should come talk to the queen instead. I guess that's because she's the child of a concubine. She poses a threat to the queen's true-born son. Maybe that's why she hates her so much. Speaking of her son, Damian makes appearance, at which point the queen promptly kicks the princess out. In front of his mother, Damian acts cold and cruel like usual, even though he was very fond of her at dinner the other day. I actually don't know how Sherbian does it. Even with the status boxes, it's impossible to tell how anyone really feels. I'm confused just reading it. When Sherbian returns to her chambers, Ellie's made her a special cake to cheer her up. But the poor girl is so turned around after meeting the queen that she can't eat it, and starts crying instead. Ellie gives her a hug and tells her there's nothing wrong with eating what she wants. She's a literal child after all. She needs to grow. After Ellie convinces her that eating is good, Sherbian's body and soul synchronization jumps up 2%. Damn, I wish my life worked like that. Imagine if every time you ate cake you literally leveled up. That would be amazing. In the next few days, Sherbian's life improves dramatically. She's much more relaxed and able to communicate a little better with Ellie, who is getting very fond of her baby princess. While on a walk, Sherbian has a sudden recollection of one of the incidents that led to her execution. In her past life, a carriage passing through the slums tipped over. One of the trash bags tore, revealing all the fancy food that no one ever ate. It caused an outrage, and a rumor immediately sparked that it was all from the princess. But all Sarah ever fed her was cold soup and bread. So where did all that fancy stuff come from? In the end, Sherbian was blamed, so that's why she's still so stressed about her public image around food. Determined to put the rumors to bed, the princess ventures over to the palace kitchens. They arrive to find the kitchens deserted, and although dinner hasn't been served, there are almost no ingredients. So then, how did that rumor start about the food waste? It can't have come from the princess's palace kitchens. That place has more dust than food. Anyone else starting to get real suspicious of where that nasty queen fits into all of this? While she's having a snack, she reads Ellie's thoughts and discovers that her sister is very sick with malaria. It gives Sherbian the motivation she needs to change things. After all, she's been given a second chance. This time around, there'll be no food waste incident and no sick sisters. While wandering through the grounds, she stumbles upon a door that leads to a gorgeous flowery garden and finds a boy about the same age as her inside. He's wearing a very fancy robe and has blonde hair and silver eyes. She puts the pieces together and recognizes him. That boy will one day grow up to be Carmen, Lord of the Magic Tower. Carmen came from the slums but had a great affinity for magic, so he became a disciple and worked his way up to become the owner of the tower. Probably because of his origins, he always hated the princess. In fact, he was the one to carry out her death penalty. Damn, can't she ever just meet a janitor or something? Why does everyone she bumps into have something to do with her death? Give the girl a break. At this point, Carmen is just a pupil of the tower, and he doesn't seem to hate her. Actually, just like her brother and father, his first thought is that Sherbian is super cute. He even invites her to sit down and enjoy the garden, his personal hideout. He seems really excited to have a visitor, and even gives her special permission to come back anytime. Quite the contrast from the cold-hearted man who grew up to literally execute her. The two of them start walking together, and Sherbian admits she's looking for a little yellow flower by the name of Kasha. Every time she describes it, her favorability points go up. I guess there's some benefits to being 5 and adorable. Because he doesn't want her to walk alone at night, Carmen agrees to come with and help her search for the flowers. They soon find it and grab a few by the roots, since the princess wants to eat them. I'm starting to seriously judge her taste in food, but apparently, it can be used as a medicine to help reduce fever. Carmen seems worried about handing a flower with medicinal properties to a 5-year-old, which is actually pretty sensible. I mean, you wouldn't just hand a box of pills to a kid, would you? What Carmen doesn't realize is that the kasha flower has an extra special effect on child fevers, which makes it the perfect antidote for Ellie's younger sister. He hands them over and then asks why she's not having magic lessons. He reveals that he can sense how high her mana affinity is, and hers is really strong. Which is news to Sherbian. Since she was born, she was always told she had no magical powers at all. So either Carmen is lying or someone has been plotting a much more serious scheme. Carmen assures her it's the truth, but right now, the princess is more focused on her 2 tasks. She's got the flower to save Ellie's sister, so now she needs to address the food waste incident. Carmen knows that the trash gets taken out at the south gate, and he shows her the way. She asks him to keep this whole thing a secret, and the young wizard agrees, but only on the condition that she promises to learn magic from now on. Aw, I'm starting to like this guy. He really wants the best for her, and as we've seen, that's a pretty rare trait around these parts. When Ellie starts calling for the princess, they part ways, promising to meet again. Sherbian returns to her maid and hands over the kasha flowers. She sends them home to her sister and a few days later reports back that the fever has broken. So with one task completed, she moves on to the other. Sherbian is hoping to find clues about the food waste at the south gate, but there's already a large group of people heading that way, including the Emperor. She bumps into him and he acts chill, even though he 100% only came this way because he was hoping to catch her. Even just seeing her in her pretty little dress immediately adds 100 favorability points. At this rate, Sherbian is going to have to smile at him like once a week, and she'll earn enough points to avoid execution. Trying to gain even more affection, she grabs onto his cloak just like before and asks him to come with her. I assumed she only wanted a bit of company. But as usual, he rolls out the red carpet and organizes an entire picnic just for her, with more food than anyone could stomach. What I wouldn't give to get that kind of treatment. I know she's had a hard life or whatever, but she's certainly making up for it the second time around. After a few snacks, he shows her around the southern area of the garden, including the stables where the carriages are stored. She makes a beeline straight to a carriage with a suspicious black bag inside. On her father's orders, they carry it out to discover an entire bag full of uneaten food. Exactly the thing she was looking for. It's a good thing she caught them in time, before that bag went out to the slums and destroyed her reputation. But now, there's the question of where it all came from. One of the stable boys suddenly appears, and his thoughts give him away. Clearly, there's some kind of scheme going on, and the Emperor knows it. He demands the stable boy be interrogated, and until then, her father tells her not to worry. He even picks her up for a cuddle. I think that's a sign that Operation Don't Get Executed at 18 is going pretty well. The next day, the princess's flag is found on the stable boy, so the Emperor bursts into his daughter's chamber to investigate. He asks straight up if she's been turning down food, and Sherbian panics, worried that things are going to go just the same as in her last life. When her father spots the macaroons on her table, she bursts into tears, admitting that she took them from her picnic yesterday. Although, I don't know what's so wrong with that. Honestly, this palace is so weird. Girls shouldn't overeat, but they should have picnics. She can eat her fill but not save any for later? I'm so confused. While Sherbian is crying, Ellie gets on her knees and tells the Emperor there's hardly any budget coming to the princess's palace. Adrian looks like he doesn't believe a word of it, but luckily, his accountant comes in at just the right time to confirm their story. The kitchens are empty of food or maids. As Ellie explains, ever since she became head maid, the princess's palace hasn't received any proper support. That's why she took the leftovers from the picnic, and also why the food waste couldn't possibly have come from them. Yeah, Ellie, you tell them. The Emperor is convinced, and does the only thing he knows how to stop his daughter crying. That's right, he brings in more tea and cakes. As more information comes to light, it's revealed that Ellie even used her own salary to try and feed the princess when the money ran out. She must have been too scared of the Empress to speak up, since the internal affairs of the palace are her responsibility. See, I'm telling you, everything points to that witch. The Emperor apologizes to his daughter and finally confronts his wife. Obviously, she denies the whole thing and says she has no idea any of this was happening. The princess walks in on their argument and gets dragged into it when the Empress asks her to vouch for her character. Honestly, if it was me, I would not hold back. I mean, she can literally read her mind and see that she's guilty. Now Sherbian is in a difficult position, and the queen is really laying it on thick. She even starts crying, looking all pitiful while in her mind, she's tearing Sherbian to shreds. How can a person be so two-faced? Overwhelmed by the pressure, the princess stands beside her father, tugging on his cloak. A classic move, guaranteed to win her victory. And just like in the past, it wins the Emperor over. He picks her up, relieving the tension and making the decision himself. He decrees that the queen will no longer be allowed to manage the palace's finances, basically taking away her only real power as a ruler. The queen is not happy about this. She tries to resist the order, but her husband takes her protest as a sign of her undermining his authority. And with an emperor this arrogant, that's just not going to slide. So she backs down, and for the first time in both her lives, Sherbian sees the queen in defeat. Although foiling her schemes is a victory, Sherbian can't rest easy. It's the queen after all. If she's been beaten once, she'll only come back harder. Later that day, the princess is having snacks when her dad drops by to visit, calling her Sherby as a cute little nickname. Aww. It's very sweet, but honestly, I still find it hard to believe. Is this really the same guy who signed her death warrant? Am I the only one who feels a little suspicious? Anyway, the Emperor and his butler wanted to continue investigating the case, but in a shocking turn of events, Sarah, the ex-maid, and the stable boy all committed suicide while in prison. Seems more like the queen cleaning up her mess to me. Even though he suspects his wife, the Emperor ends up pinning it on Sarah and the agent responsible for handling the queen's budget, who is punished accordingly. Which means sweet little Sherbian finally gets to kick back and relax for once. And really, she deserves it. I mean, who else could solve a palace mystery and save a child's life in the body of a 5-year-old? Eat all the macarons you want, bestie! In the aftermath, the princess's kitchens are full of food and staff again, and Sherbian got a whole new wardrobe too. And the best part is that the princess and her dad now have breakfast together every morning, a perfect opportunity to increase her favorability. He even got special-made utensils for her to use that fit her baby hands. Wow, she really has him wrapped around her finger. The emperor is so whipped that he carries her back to her room after breakfast. After a nice long nap, she goes out to explore the palace gardens, which have also been revamped and are now full of flowers. She has a whole new host of maids too, and these ones seem way nicer. Although that's not exactly hard, just so long as they don't starve her, beat her, and brainwash her to hate her dad. One of the new maids, Jane, is accompanying Sherbian on her walk. So far, she seems to be very fond of the princess. While Sherbian is off wandering by herself, she bumps into her brother, Damian. Will this finally be the moment that he picks a side? It's been hard to tell where his loyalties lie so far. Before we can find out, the perspective switches, and suddenly, we are with Hex, the Emperor's assistant. Personally, he's been struggling with the Emperor's investigation of the Queen. As it turns out, their marriage was a little rocky from the start. You see, it was really a political alliance forged after the war. Everything was part of a contract, to the point that their heir, Damian, was even created by magic. However that works. But all along, the Emperor's heart was with Sherbian's mother, who we haven't heard much about up until now. So why do I get the feeling that's about to change? Meanwhile, in the gardens, Sherbian is hoping to politely avoid her brother when he suddenly opens up. It seems like his behavior the last time they met has really been bothering him. He apologizes for acting that way and asks if they can hang out more in the future. Kind of an awkward way of talking to your sibling, isn't it? Can you imagine a brother turning to his sister and politely asking to spend more time together? Mine just used to yell at me when we were kids. Anyway, because she's sweeter than pie, Sherbian forgives him and agrees to spend more time with him. Though she probably wasn't expecting him to show up at her bedroom the very next morning. She's a little frightened of him still and hides behind Jane's dress when he arrives. But Damian actually came to bring her a cake, one especially made for her. By now, we know the quickest way to Sherbian's heart is through her stomach. And indeed, all seems pretty much forgiven, especially after he conjured up little edible bunnies to go on top of the cake. I'm not gonna lie, that would get me too. Can I get a brother like this? They each have a slice while Sherbian watches her favorability go up and up and up. It's quite the contrast from her past life, where they hardly spoke and always acted awkward. Admittedly, he still acts a little strange these days. Damian even warns her that he might be rude and cold again in the future, and asks her forgiveness if he has to act like that sometimes. Sounds kinda shady to me, but while Sherbian has cake in front of her, anything goes. The next morning, both Damian and her dad are present for breakfast, even though the prince wasn't technically invited. He acts like he just wanted to have breakfast with the Emperor, but it's pretty clear he came to join the Sherby fan club. Although honestly, they're more like rivals than fans. When the Emperor hears about the cake, he gets kinda competitive. Both of them are so similar, it's no surprise they'd end up fighting for her affection. While they're arguing about cake and sweets, Sherbian still has her eyes on the horizon. She can't forget how quickly everyone turned on her in her past life, and knows it won't be easy to avoid trouble this time around. Besides her perceived arrogance, the other big crimes she was framed for were treason and using dark magic. Her enemies even went so far as to plant items in her palace, which means they're dedicated. Sherbian can't relax just yet. While in the garden, the Emperor approaches and offers to take her on a walk. It's cute that this guy is trying to get close to her, but doesn't he have a country to run? Breakfast, walks in the garden. Shouldn't an emperor be a little busier than this? This time, he has a gift too. A statue of an angel riding a horse. I guess he heard about Damian's cake toppers and wanted to one-up him. Obviously, she loves it, and after giving her thanks, he gives her permission to wander through the Emperor's private garden at her leisure. Sherbian starts visiting every day for the wonderful flowers. One day, she spots her father working outside and ends up sitting with him eating, you guessed it, a whole plate of sweets. While she's chilling with her dad, Hex appears suddenly with urgent news from the palace. He seems nervous to talk in front of the princess, but the Emperor commands him to speak. He tells them that one of their citizens just entered the kingdom of Garambel on the west coast and is begging for their help. Apparently, some kind of medicinal shipment was on the way to Garambel when it was attacked. The bandits captured the driver and burned all the ingredients. You see, originally there were 4 empires in the land. Erveldote is now the only remaining one, and lots of little kingdoms sprung up to fill the space of extinguished empires. In the last Great War, the Emperor conquered them all, but in the decades that followed, several kingdoms have perished due to various disasters. The Western Kingdom of Garambel was nearly one of them, and has been struggling with leprosy for years. That's why they were transporting special medicinal ingredients to the kingdom. Hex advises the Emperor not to send another shipment. Storm season is about to begin, which means the cost and scale of sending further supplies will only be a loss to the Empire. Financially, it makes sense. But Sherbian remembers from her past life that once the Empire stopped supplying the kingdom, the plague spread faster than anyone imagined and wiped out the entire nation in a fortnight. Oh gosh, isn't that too much pressure for one little girl? How is she supposed to communicate all of that to her father without giving herself away? Instead of getting into a heavy conversation about socio-economic benefits of aiding neighboring territories, Sherbian does what 5-year-olds do best: look cute and act sweet. She reminds her dad that helping others is important, worried that he'll scold her for interfering in politics. And the Emperor is stern when he responds, asking if she understands how much another shipment would cost the Empire. Obviously not, dude. She's literally 5. Even so, Sherbian does her best to use what language she has to convince him. And just like that, her dad agrees. Wow, he really is a pushover. Is this how all world leaders make decisions, taking the advice of their kids? Anyway, somehow Sherbian ends up at the top of all of this. The Emperor orders more supplies to be sent to Garambel, and even rewards his daughter for having the courage to speak up. I guess it's no surprise that people start talking about the Emperor who was swayed by a child. Word gets out fast, and soon Sherbian's name is back on the public's lips. And we know how that went last time. Sherbian doesn't like the attention, so she tries to hide inside the palace as much as possible. It's a good time to be keeping a low profile since the snowstorm season is due to start soon. Around this time, temperature drop and monsters get stronger, so a lot of people stay inside. But that also means she can't go and see her dad. Ellie, her maid, notices how down she seems these days. Reading her thoughts, Sherbian sees her think about reporting this to the Emperor, so she does her best to keep Ellie by her side. She doesn't want to worry her father, especially when he's so busy now sorting out the Garambel shipment. One morning, Sherbian gets a surprise visit from Hex, who brought some bad news. The plague has spread through Garambel just like she feared, and is wreaking havoc on the kingdom. I can't believe it! After everything she did, history still repeated itself? Sherbian looks like she's about to cry, but Hex reassures her that her shipment did make it to the people in time. Though the plague is still rife, they now have the full support of Erveldote, and it's all because of Sherbian. She saved their lives! The sweet little princess is delighted to hear that she was able to help others. Then the Emperor himself arrives all in a huff. He heard that Sherbian hasn't been eating and came straight away. She reassures him everything is fine and tells him not to worry. She doesn't want to bother him while he's so busy. Then her dad goes all soft and tells her she's never a bother, which, I have to admit, is kind of adorable. So she tells the truth. Actually, she doesn't like eating alone. She knows her dad is busy, but asks if just sometimes they could eat together. For some reason, this really presses the Emperor's buttons. Clearly, there's been some miscommunication down the chain of command. It's not like he was never going to eat with her again. It was only a temporary arrangement. He looks like he's about to murder one of his staff members, so Ellie steps in and admits that she may not have communicated clearly enough. Gosh, so much drama over miscommunication. What is with this family and making everything so intense? It's just breakfast, people! In the end, her father promises to have breakfast with his daughter when he can, and asks her not to skip meals when he's away. In the meantime, Sherbian still sticks mostly to her palace because of all the attention she's gained. When she does go outside, it's to hunt for whippet, a special flower that only blooms in storm season. It's kind of exhausting, though, being able to read everyone's thoughts about her. There are all sorts of rumors flying around, some good and some not so good. While she's ducking and dodging public opinion, the Emperor and his team are getting suspicious about the strength and origins of the latest outbreak of leprosy. Though they can't prove much, it seems man-made. So the Emperor orders his court chief to secretly investigate the few leads they have and report back. Obviously, Sherbian doesn't know about any of that. She's spending more and more time inside, waiting for the blizzard to pass. Although there is one thing to look forward to: her birthday. Sherbian's birthday lands right in the middle of storm season. Kind of a bummer, right? In her past life, her 6th birthday was a miserable affair. She didn't have a party or any kind of celebration. Actually, people just acted like it was a normal day. All at the hands of the queen, of course. Maybe this time she can change things? After all, doesn't the little girl who saved the Gramabel nation at least deserve a party? Actually, the maids are planning something. This is one of those times where being able to read minds kind of sucks, since Sherbian can see the surprise they're planning for her. But I guess it's the thought that counts, right? As usual, Sherbian is more occupied with thoughts about how to secure her spot in the palace so that, no one decides to execute her this time around. She asks Jane to take her to the royal library, determined that if she can't use magic, at least she can become smart and useful to the Empire. The only problem is, she's not supposed to know how to read yet. Only 5, remember? She asks Jane to stand outside so she can read, and they head off together. But before they reach the library, they bump into a stranger with dark red hair. He introduces himself as the magician Antonio, at which point Sherbian has a sudden memory of him accusing her of dark magic in her former life. Even now, his intentions are murky. By reading his thoughts, it's clear that he's only being nice to the princess to get closer to the Emperor. The memory of her horrible past life is so upsetting that she ends up fainting. When she comes to, her dad is by her bedside and has already had her checked over by a doctor. Because, of course he has. It takes Sherbian a moment to realize she's still in her younger body and not being persecuted in her memories. She reassures her father that she's not ill, just scared, so he immediately storms off to confront Magician Antonio. But since our beloved Emperor has literally no chill, he goes from 0 to 100 real quick and locks the magician up, having him beaten to reveal what he did to his daughter. Oh, and Damian is there too for some reason. Do we know how old this kid is? Should he be hanging around an interrogation chamber? This looks like it's going to get nasty. Meanwhile, the doctor is doing everything he can to cure the princess of what is clearly just a very long anxiety attack. Everyone seems so worried, and though she doesn't know it, some people's lives are very much on the line. So Sherbian drinks the medicine provided, even though it tastes disgusting. Her dad is about to strangle the doctor for giving his precious princess a gross drink, so she forces herself through the whole thing and pretends it's yummy. Ugh, this poor girl. After the whole medicine fiasco, the interrogation of Antonio has actually turned up some dirt. The Emperor trusts his daughter's instincts, so even though he literally just said hi, he had the magician investigated and discovered he's been kidnapping kids. Okay, that's obviously horrible, but can you believe how lucky she is? That means another of the main villains in Sherbian's story is off the books before she's even a teenager. The Emperor commands his men to find and return the missing children, and also orders that anyone from the magic tower related to Antonio be investigated. Meanwhile, Sherbian is plagued by fears of her past life repeating. Determined to find some way to protect herself, she steals a few of the gems from her dresser and hides them in her teddy bear. I don't know how she plans to escape when she's only 6, but that's our girl. Always plotting. The next morning, Ellie brings the princess a list of furnishing options so that they can redecorate her room. Now that the budget dilemma has finally been solved, Ellie is determined to make the palace all beautiful and sparkly for her. Looks like the boys might have competition for the top member of the Sherbian fan club. Because running the country is apparently no big deal, the Emperor walks in as usual. He came to check in on his daughter since she's been staying inside again lately. He also hops on the furniture bandwagon, trying to lavishly shower her with gifts. When Sherbian insists that they shouldn't waste money on such expensive furniture, he decides to just give her the budget instead. Right, because giving a child a load of money is a great idea. That definitely won't backfire. Then they move on to the topic of the long-awaited birthday party, which he's already been making grand preparations for. When he made the announcement to his ministers, a young man by the name of Hannibal Pakor stepped forward, which, by the way, is one of the weirdest names I've ever heard. But anyway, Hannibal is from one of the most prestigious clans in the Empire. Maybe that's what gives him the courage to stand up in front of the emperor and tell him there are more important things than his daughter's birthday party. Uh-oh. Nice to meet you, Hannibal. Hope you had a nice life. The young duke seems to think the situation in Garambel is too severe to be holding a party right now. With the plague still raging, it would be insensitive to hold such a big celebration. It would be a fair point if news didn't arrive at that exact moment proclaiming that the plague had recently eased. Talk about taking the L. Besides, since the princess is the one who ordered the extra shipment of medicine, it seems like a birthday party would be really appropriate right now. But blowing up against the Duke in front of his council is likely to make rumors fly about the Emperor's judgment. After that tense council meeting, the big day finally rolls around. Once she hits 6 years old, her body and soul synchronization improves even more. Ellie gets her all dressed up with the shiniest jewels so that when the Emperor himself arrives, he is bowled away by her cuteness. But the celebrations go further than just fancy outfits. Apparently, royal birthdays are traditionally celebrated for 3 whole days. That's 3 days of Sherbian basically being worshipped and showered with affection. Quite the contrast from her previous life. When she arrives at the Imperial Palace, Sherbian is greeted by her father, who immediately presents her to a grand hall of prestigious guests. So, no pressure or anything. Like any young child in a room full of strangers, she starts to cry. So her dad uses his magic to comfort her and hide the others from her view so she's not so stressed. He takes her out to the gardens, where they dine on her favorite sweets before the arrival of the Grand Witch herself, Queen Siabel, who looks just as stunning as usual despite her rotten personality. And this time, her favorability is at an all-time low. I guess that's to be expected after the food waste scandal put her out of the Emperor's favor. The uncomfortable trio sit together and greet the guests, the first of whom is the master of the magic tower, Master Trana. I guess Carmen must have talked her up, because this guy already likes Sherbian, like, a lot. And just like Carmen, he mentions Sherbian's mana levels. Apparently, even the master of the tower can see that she's just bursting with magical potential. So why has she never been trained before now? I assumed it was something to do with the queen, but if the emperor knows too? Ugh, the mysteries never end. The magic tower master tries to impress on the queen just how special the princess is, but the emperor cuts him off. He says something about how mana levels can transform and change at will. Honestly, it's all pretty confusing, but clearly they don't want her to start learning until they're sure her potential will stay that way. Maybe that's why she didn't learn in her past life? Because her mana levels dropped over time? The whole thing gets even more complicated when Sherbian catches her father thinking about her mother's last words. Something about wanting a child to enjoy their childhood? Ah, that makes a lot of sense. Avishur's last wish must have been for Sherbian to have the freedom to play and enjoy her youth. But that seems kind of bogus to me. She has the potential, so she should use it. After that whole encounter, Damian finally shows up, and the party is in full swing. All the high-ranking nobles from her previous life come to praise and greet her, and actually, most of their status windows are positive, so she must be doing something right. Her dad is enjoying passing her cake after cake in between the guests, until the queen gently suggests Sherbian stop filling up on sweets. For once, I kind of agree with her. I don't think we've seen this girl eat anything other than cake and macarons. I feel like a vegetable or two wouldn't go amiss. As you'd expect, the emperor doesn't take well to her comments. With her father's encouragements, she can eat freely, and to her surprise, the guests also seem to feel the same. In fact, their sentiment is generally turning against the queen for being so cruel. Later on, Sherbian is watching the nobles mingle in the hall when she spots a thief in their ranks, disguised as a waiter. She tries to follow him, but gets lost in the crowd and ends up returning to her room with Ellie. But she can't sleep knowing there's a thief in the palace. To have taken a risk this big, they can only be after one thing: the royal treasury. Sherbian remembers from her past life that there was a huge break-in at one stage, and lots of valuables were stolen, resulting in harsh criticism from the nobles towards her father. This time, she's determined to pay back some of the kindness her father has shown her, and put a stop to the break-in. On the second day of celebrations, only children from the noble families are supposed to attend. As usual, the queen has engineered things so that there's no one of Sherbian's age. All the guests are children of the queen's favored dukes, which just seems unnecessarily mean. Isn't it enough to ruin her reputation? At least let the girl have some friends. Luckily, Sherbian has her brother by her side, and he's fully in her corner today. Oh, and Carmen showed up. It's a good thing too, because she's going to need all the help she can get. Those snobby rich kids waste no time being rude about the princess, and even makes a dig at Carmen's lowborn upbringing. Bad decision, buddy. After hearing his sister and best friend insulted, Crown Prince Damian immediately calls a guard to drag him away. In the middle of that mess, Sherbian spots the thief from earlier through his status window, even though his face and hair are totally different. She gets Ellie to pick her up and take her to the treasury, where she ends up face to face with the thief, again in a totally different disguise. What is he, a chameleon or something? As a 6-year-old, she uses the best words she's got to warn Ellie there's something off about the guard. But when he realizes the jig is up, the thief whips out his sword and tries to take her hostage. His sword is about to slice Ellie in two when suddenly, a stranger appears to defend them. He tells the girls to run, but Sherbian can see the thief has something else up his sleeve. She calls out to warn the stranger, and he turns his head at just the right moment, avoiding some kind of lethal poison. Honestly, give this girl a medal. She's a total superhero. Damian shows up in time to deliver the final blow, disarming the thief and rushing straight over to check on his sister. The thief is captured, and once again, the day is saved by sweet little Sherby. The stranger who came to their aid was apparently an escort assigned to the princess, whose name is Adante Royd. He explains the whole situation to her father, who is shocked that his 6-year-old daughter managed to identify a thief just by looking at him. He sends her to her room to get some rest while he pursues the investigation. After being interrogated, the thief admits he was aiming for the royal treasury, but somehow, blinded by his love for his daughter, the emperor gets it in his head that he was after Sherbian all along. Oh, Hadrian, never change. During the investigation, they're interrupted with urgent news. The thief was just found dead in the prison, and it looks like he was poisoned. Does that remind you of any other mysterious criminal deaths? Sounds like Sarah and the stable boy, doesn't it? Clearly, whoever helped the thief get into the palace decided to silence him before anything else could come out. After all, he had to have had help. He even had access to servant and guard uniforms. Suddenly, the princess's escort appears and tells the emperor that he thinks his daughter was able to read the incoming attack from the thief and forewarn him, almost like she read his mind. Kind of a wild thing to just pipe up and tell the emperor, but go off. To everyone's surprise, he actually agrees. Since Sherbian has such an affinity for mana, it is plausible that she might also be particularly sensitive to danger. The next day is the final celebration, during which only the royal family are allowed to attend. And they really go all out. There's a dollhouse covered in macarons, and even a chocolate fountain. It's like Sherbian's own personal heaven. Damian got her a huge teddy bear as a gift, and her father offers her one special wish as a reward for catching the thief. But, as usual, the queen interrupts to say a wish from an emperor is too great an honor for a child, which absolutely makes no sense. Seriously, where does she come up with this stuff? The crown prince and the emperor manage to shut her up, so she makes her wish, and it's not cake, or more toys, or any of the things you might expect. Sherby wants to see the royal treasury. Her father escorts her himself. The treasury has the royal seal on its doors and only responds to the mana unique to the royal family. That means only the royals can open it by infusing their mana into the blue wolf symbol. Inside, there are lots of magical tricks and traps to confuse any potential thieves. There are jewels and precious gems in every direction, but the real prize is the emperor's own treasures, especially the imperial scepter. That's what Sherbian thinks the thief was after. That's the one that disappeared in her past life. It belonged to the first ever emperor, but her father says it's not actually very valuable. Wait, then why would the thief be after it? And how was he planning to break in anyway without any access to the royal family's mana? I'm so confused. On their way out, Sherby spots the secret passageway that the thief was planning to use to exit, marked by the sapinal flower engraved on a candlestick. Once the celebrations draw to a close, the princess is gifted a large amount of assets and property. Who keeps giving all this financial responsibility to a little girl? Who makes the decisions around these parts? I bet it's the emperor. Now that she's incredibly wealthy, Sherbian wants to learn how to manage her new assets and make good use of the money she's inherited. For that, she'll need a teacher. After doing a pretty poor job of sneaking around the palace staff, Sherbian's eye lands on a junior finance minister named Marco William, who's a little creeped out that the princess keeps following him around like a stalker. She asks him to become her teacher, but Marco immediately refuses. I'm pretty sure everyone has noticed by now that most people who get involved with the princess either get locked up or lose their lives. But Sherbian is determined. She even offers him a salary of 10 billion, and well, who could say no to that? After acquiring her tutor, Sherbian starts thinking about the change of seasons. With spring just around the corner, it's nearly picnic time, where nobles gather in the special millennial garden to witness the legendary flower that blooms once in 1,000 years. The Sapinel flower. The millennial garden was created by the first emperor as a place for social gatherings under the magic of eternal spring. In her previous life, Sherbian was never allowed to enter. She hopes this time her father will include her in the festivities, so she goes to visit his chambers and stumbles into an official government meeting. Maybe she should come back another time? But the emperor insists and even picks her up to comfort her amidst the pressure of his advisors. She doesn't want to interfere, so she decides to just sit there until he's done working. Although, it seems like she's already interfering by staying on the emperor's lap. It does, however, give her the perfect opportunity to read the moods of the government officials, most of whom hated her in her previous life. This time around, they all seem just as obsessed with her cuteness as the emperor. She also gets to witness how an empire is run, and a chance to grasp the present political situation. And currently, there seems to be a lot of fluctuation in the price of grain. Because of the fluctuation in market prices, the meeting was extended and Sherbian fell asleep. When she woke up, she was still in the arms of the emperor. Before them is Hannibal Pakor, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and coincidentally, the same man who spoke out against Sherbian's 3-day birthday party. This is the first time Sherbian has met him, but she remembers right away that he's also the Empress's younger brother. Ah, now it all makes sense. The emperor can tell his daughter is nervous around him, so after they've met, he stuffs her with cake, his foolproof method for keeping her happy. Finally alone, Sherbian asks her father the question she came for: permission to go on the spring picnic. At first, he doesn't answer, but then his favorability starts rising like crazy, and he agrees to go together as long as she fulfills one wish. They end up in the Millennial Garden with the whole royal family, including Damian and the queen. The meadow is gorgeous, but Sherbian is struggling to appreciate the sights because she's embarrassed about fulfilling the promise she made. Which turns out to be way less intense than it sounds. He just wants her to call him Dad. But she accidentally calls him Papa and freaks out because I guess that's not the proper way to address an imperial parent? Honestly, at this point, who cares? Her dad loves it anyways and asks her to stick with that from now on. After tea, Sherbian is able to enjoy everything the spring picnic has to offer, especially the Sapinel flowers. In her previous life, Sherbian met a fairy that lived inside one, so she still looks at them all the time, expecting one to pop out. Once, after her brother gave a precious flower to one of Sherbian's rivals, she went to the garden to beg that fairy for a single flower, hoping it would make her feel better to have one too. But the next day, the entire garden burned down. And I'm sure you can guess what happened after that. Since the princess was the last person to enter, everyone blamed her for its destruction. The more I hear about the things Sherbian was blamed for, I'm kind of shocked they waited that long to execute her. If I didn't know any better, I would probably hate her too. Because of her bad memories associated with the Sapinel, Sherbian refuses when her father invites her to pick one. After the events of the picnic, the royals go home, and somehow the queen ends up in the same carriage as Sherbian. It's kind of uncomfortable, but it ends up being a gift. The queen is up to her usual tricks, and her status window gives her away. She also seems to know about the secret passageway and even blatantly admits she's after the treasure. This is one heck of a breakthrough. So Sherbian has learned two things. 1. The passageway from the treasury leads to the Millennial Garden. That's why there's a sapinal on it. And 2, the queen was somehow involved in helping the thief. Wow, this goes deep. And who knows, her whole family could be involved. I wouldn't trust that slimy duke as far as I could throw him, so I wouldn't be surprised. Thinking quickly, she asks her father if they can have picnics more often so that she can monitor the passageway in case the queen tries a second robbery. Meanwhile, her lessons with Marco are off to a slightly dull start. Because of her princess upbringing, there's a lot she doesn't know about the world, so they have to start off super basic, like how a shirt is made basic. But she really wants to learn about the world, especially the way commoners live. Although Marco is wary at first, seeing his thoughts make it easy for Sherbian to quickly win him over and get friendly with her tutor. And as usual, she keeps winning fans left and right. Now that she knows where to look, it's easy to spot her escort, Adante, wherever he's hiding. That status window really is a dead giveaway. She uncovers his hiding place, which is kind of embarrassing for a knight of his status, and gives him a bag of caramels as thanks for saving her from the thief. His favorability immediately goes up. I guess moody knights can be sweet lovers too. And it's definitely useful to have him on her side. He already saved her once, and he's smart enough to notice her special skills. She really needs him in her corner, so he stops giving the game away. Jumping ahead a few months, spring has passed and now summer is on its way. One sunny morning, Sherbian is summoned to the Imperial Palace for a visit. A delegation from Garambel have arrived and asked to see her. The first person to greet her is a boy not much older than the princess. His name is Abel, and he's the prince of the Garambel Kingdom. He greets her very formally, but Sherbian is too young to know how to answer, so she does what she does best and runs to her dad's lap. Okay, is anyone else kind of tired of that? I know she's a cutesy kid and all, but technically there's a full-grown woman in her head. Isn't that sort of weird? Anyway, the Garambel delegation are incredibly grateful for their aid against the plague. Actually, they're specifically grateful to Sherbian. All she has to do is ask how they're holding up, and they're immediately members of the fan club. Turns out, the delegation also has another purpose. They've been investigating the plague as the Emperor ordered and have determined that someone within the Imperial Palace was working against his orders. They even suggest they had something to do with the plague. While the adults are having heated political conversations, the young prince seems totally smitten with Sherbian. He comes to visit her quarters with some cake as a gift, because apparently, that really is all she eats these days. Though Prince Abel is very sweet and well-mannered, Damian doesn't take to him. I guess he's jealous that someone else has his sister's attention, especially since she isn't acting shy in front of him. The three of them have a very awkward tea party where Damian keeps giving the kid a death glare. But he's acting so adorable, I don't know how anyone could hate him. He even invites them to his kingdom someday so they can return the favor properly. Later that day, Sherbian meets up with Marco, who has just made big money by investing in a fashion trend on the princess's advice. See, if I went back in time to my younger self, this is what I'd be doing. Using that future knowledge to earn money. Because she doesn't want to draw attention to herself, Sherbian is acting through Marco to build up investments, but it makes him a little uncomfortable to take all the credit. Marco then goes away for a while, accompanying the Garambel delegation to restore their economy. Summer turns to autumn, and trouble returns for Sherbian. One random morning, the chief maid of the queen's palace arrives unannounced, summoning the princess to the gardens. Her maids don't want to let her go. It's against the rules for the princess to go anywhere without an appointment. But the queen's chief maid is just as nasty as the head witch herself. She insists, so Sherbian reassures her maids and agrees to come along. Anyone else have a very, very bad feeling about this? The queen's grudge has been building for a full year now. If she gets the princess alone, who knows what she'll dare to do? Before we find out what business the head maid has with Sherbian, it's important to know one special thing about the Erveldote Empire. The entire country is surrounded by magic forests, which causes the mana in the atmosphere to thin. The less mana a person has in their body, the more exposed they are to diseases. To prevent this, it's pretty common for people in the Empire to drink Karmen tea, an extract that boosts mana and keeps you safe. Normally, you drink the tea once a month, starting from the end of your 6th year. The first time a member of the imperial family drinks the tea is a really special occasion, but it has to be done with a doctor present. And surprise, surprise, the Empress's head maid has brought Sherbian to the sacred Harmon Garden. She wants the princess to drink the tea early, which might not seem that bad. But in her past life, Sherbian fainted the first time she tried the tea because she's actually allergic to harmon grass. The management of harmon grass is the responsibility of the Pakor Duke, the Empress's own family. So obviously, she can't trust a single blade of that grass. Who knows what the maid might have put in it? Even if she wasn't allergic, it would be far too dangerous. Ellie and Jane try to resist, demanding the presence of the palace doctor, but the head maid is having none of it, and even the palace guards are on her side. Ellie and Jane are restrained, leaving poor little Sherbian defenseless when the maid grabs her and orders the tea to be poured. Things are really not looking good. Sherbian can even see the specialist's thoughts, showing that he slipped something in her tea. Oh god, girl, get out of there quick! She's struggling against the head maid, crying out for help. Just then, the Emperor arrives, and not a moment too soon. He frees Sherbian, demands the guards be arrested, and even puts the specialist in restraints. Of course her father would come running the moment she's in trouble, but breaking into the Harmon Garden is a big deal. Apparently, the Emperor doesn't care one bit about the rules. He's so angry to find his daughter in this suspicious setup that he even vows to conduct the specialist's interrogation himself. Whoa! Is anyone else a little hot under the collar? Adrian is kinda handsome when he's mad. When Hex arrives, he and the Emperor start discussing the situation right away. Sherbian has a real dilemma now. She doesn't have the words or intellect yet to explain an allergy, and even if she did, it would be a little suspicious considering she's never had the tea in this life. But one way or another, she has to avoid it. Luckily, she has an incredibly doting father who is obsessed with pampering her. The moment Sherby expresses her dislike, he orders Hex to study the Harmon tea and find an alternative. But that in itself is a risky thing to do. All authority over the Harmon grass belongs to the Empress's family, and that includes information about the components and analysis of the herb. That means investigating Harmon tea is basically the same as challenging their authority. The Pakor Duke's family definitely won't let it slide, but Adrian would do anything for his daughter. So now it's on poor Hex's shoulder to find a replacement, no matter the political consequences. And there will be political consequences. Already the Empress's palace is kicking up a fuss about them holding the head maid captive. And it only gets more complicated when Sherby's knight arrives, admitting he was absent because he'd been called away by the Empress's personal doctor. I mean, how much clearer can it get? Obviously, this has all been staged by the Empress, down to every last detail. I don't think Adrian is going to be able to brush past her involvement this time. And she's not done poking her nose where it doesn't belong. Soon after the tea incident, the Empress pays a visit to the princess's palace, the first time she's ever done so in both of Sherbian's lives. She is trying to interrogate the princess and making Sherbian very uncomfortable. So Ellie steps in, trying to call the princess away. As usual, Isabel does not take that well at all. She is so angry about being interrupted that she orders the guards to seize Ellie for her disobedience, which is crazy. I mean, aren't they in Sherbian's palace? Why does she have authority here? Thinking fast, Sherbian tries to save Ellie by admitting she was in the wrong and she shouldn't have refused the tea. As soon as she gives in, the Empress pulls out another cup of the damned Harmon tea. I thought this stuff was supposed to be sacred. Does everyone just carry it around in their pockets or something? Finally, she snaps, yelling at Sherbian and literally forcing her mouth open and pouring the tea down it. Okay, this is insane, even for her. I can't believe this is actually happening. Of course, as usual, the Emperor shows up at the last possible second. I swear, that guy basically has a spidey sense for whenever his daughter is in trouble. Isabel is so stunned by his arrival that she drops the tea, smashing the cup on the floor. She insists that she had only the princess's best interests at heart, but Adrian has totally run out of patience. He calls it what it is: abuse. The two of them are screaming and yelling at one another when Sherbian coughs. The Emperor suddenly notices how she's shivering and takes her straight to bed, summoning the palace doctor. After a brief examination, the doctor finally reveals what Sherbian was trying to tell them all: that she's allergic to Harmon tea. And it's a really strong allergy too, since she didn't even drink it and she's fainted. If her intolerance is even stronger in this life, she's gonna have to be really careful in the future. In other news, the examination of the tea the maid was trying to give her has highlighted a strange ingredient. It's not poison, but it affects the body's mana and slowly reduces their ability to use it. Wait, Hold on a second. Is that what the Empress gave her in her past life? Is that why she could never use magic before? Because she was drugging her with this ingredient? Wow, that is seriously messed up. Sherbian suffers a fever for quite some time, but slowly she recovers her health. Her brother and father visit frequently, and this time they even brought cake. They're both very worried for her health, but the truth is, the princess is suffering more from her memories than the reaction. She can't stop picturing the Empress forcing her mouth open. I'm not surprised. It must have been traumatizing. While she's been ill, Adrian's fury has swept through the palace. Despite the protests of his advisors, he demands an investigation into both the Duke Pakor and the Empress, as well as more research on the Harmon grass itself, even though that's totally forbidden. Isabel's brother is just as slimy as usual. He promises to comply with the investigation and insists that he has nothing to hide. He argues that this is all a big misunderstanding, and that the Empress could not possibly have known about what was in the tea or how the princess would react. Which is a steaming load of nonsense if you ask me. For a few days after the whole affair, both the Emperor's palace and the princess's palace are in an uproar. Ellie and Jane are worried about accidentally causing an allergic reaction, and even her brother seems concerned about her health when they meet. Damian takes her on an impromptu visit to the Emperor, where the atmosphere is tense, to say the least. Adrian is holding her little bunny doll. Apparently, there's something weird inside it. Before he says what it is, Sherbian is already freaking out. This whole setup reminds her of her past life, where people found evidence of black magic in her possession and used them to turn the palace against her. But this time, it's nothing like that. Actually, they found the jewels that she nabbed all those months ago, when she thought she would have to run away someday. Her dad is also very gentle. He isn't telling her off. He just wants to hear an explanation. Sherbian is shaking and terrified, so she lays the truth before them. That she thought that she would need to accumulate some money in case she left the palace one day. Damian and Adrian are so blinded by their love for her that they completely misunderstand. They think she's scared of the Empress kicking her out because of the tea scandal, and that's why she took the gems. Either way, she's not in trouble. Her father chooses instead to reassure her that she will never have to leave the palace. This is her home, after all. After he's done reassuring his daughter, Adrian heads a meeting with his council to hear the results of the investigation. The specialist doctor was found to have added a large amount of mana-disrupting potion to the Harmon tea, apparently envying Sherbian's extraordinary abilities. Now, whether that's really true or not is hard to tell. After all, the man delivering this information is the Duke Pakor, whose family are directly involved in this whole scandal. I wouldn't put it past him to have pinned it all on that one specialist, framing him to keep his reputation clean. Duke Pakor also goes one step farther, offering to take responsibility for the doctor on behalf of his family. Ugh, I hate this guy. He is a master in manipulation. It's frustrating that he's covered his tracks so well, but the Emperor is still determined to punish the Empress in some way. So in future, he deprives her of all custody over Princess Sherbian. About time, too! The Emperor has one last matter to bring to his council. This time, it's about the transport of medicine to and from Garenbel, which he has been investigating in secret all this time. He pulls out a strange blue ball and invites the Marquis Parma, the man in charge of transportation management, to step forward. Uh-oh, someone's in for a scolding. The Marquis doesn't keep his cool very well. He immediately freaks out, protesting that he has no idea what's going on, which only makes him look more guilty if you ask me. The Emperor ignores his sniveling and drops the ball by his feet, releasing a load of runes. Apparently, they contain evidence that the Marquis intentionally damaged the medicinal herbs he was in charge of. The man continues to claim it's all one big misunderstanding, even as he is taken into custody by the guards. And guess who looks the most concerned as he's dragged away? The Duke Pakor. It doesn't take a genius to see that those two are in cahoots. Clearly, the scandal has only just scraped the surface of that family's meddling. After the council is adjourned, the Emperor visits his lovely daughter to surprise her with a gift. It's a necklace, a gorgeous sapphire one that matches her eyes perfectly. Not only is it beautiful, but it also serves a purpose. It's engraved with magic symbols to help collect mana, so she can wear it instead of drinking the Harmon tea. Sherby is delighted, and her dad is so happy that as soon as she puts it on, he takes her around the entire palace to show her off. Honestly, it's cute and all, But doesn't a literal emperor have more important things to do than boasting his daughter's pretty necklace? I swear, this guy lives for his daughter and nothing else. After their little victory lap around the palace, he tucks her into bed and tells her she must stay with him forever. Clearly, her escape attempt has stuck with him, so Sherby promises to never leave his side. In fact, she pinky swears. That's how you know it's real. Meanwhile, the Empress has been eagerly awaiting news of the investigation and the Emperor's reaction in her own quarters. Her brother arrives in the dead of night to tell her to be patient and calm down. Isabel tells him very rudely that she's perfectly calm and proceeds to throw a teacup at him. Sure, Isabel. Perfectly calm indeed. She's furious at how much trust her husband puts in Sherbian. He keeps asking her to get something from the treasury, though when she tries to bring up the subject, he refuses to speak on it further. Like, that's not suspicious at all. The Duke Pakor seems to blame her for acting so rashly, and in fairness, it is kind of her fault. The headmaid's actions threw them both into suspicion, and I'd put my money on the Duke as the one who had to clear up her mess. Time continues to pass, and soon the second season of storms arrive in the Empire. It's not long before Sherbian's 7th birthday, and this time, she doesn't want a big party, just to spend the day with the people that she loves. That's our princess for you. Always modest, always humble. Although, if I had an emperor wrapped around my finger, I'd be throwing the biggest party imaginable and demanding present after present. Adrian has decided to grant her one wish as a present, though Sherbian isn't sure when or what he'll do. While she's looking out the window, a pretty butterfly made of mana comes flying towards her. It's a signal from Carmen. Now that he's learned heraldic magic, they made up a password to send each other secret messages. The next day, first thing in the morning, she sneaks out to visit him in the garden. Carmen is happy to see her, though you wouldn't know it by the look on his face. He offers her a ring because apparently everyone is just showering her with jewelry these days. He's super cute about it too. He mumbles something about her birthday and acts all embarrassed when she asks if it's a gift. Obviously, it's a gift, Carmen. Now stop blushing, you look like a schoolgirl in love. He even made it himself. It has the effect of preventing poison from spreading. Sherbian asks if it can help with her Harmon allergy too, and Carmen tells her not to go around saying that so loud, which is a fair point actually. He promises to do some research to see if the ring could possibly prevent such an allergy, but for now she's happy enough knowing that her mana scent is still strong. He demands that she start learning magic properly from next year onwards. Finally, Sherbian's birthday rolls around and her father makes her wish come true. He agrees to a trip outside the palace walls, through the city, so long as she is accompanied by Hex and promises to never let go of him. Yeah, that's Adrian, by the way. He even dyed his hair so that he could go out in public with her. How adorable is that? This is the first time she's been outside the Imperial Palace, both in this life and the last one, which is kind of insane if you think about it. Finally, her curiosity can have an answer, and for the first time, she gets to experience what normal life is like for common folk. The only thing is that all the new sights and sounds make her so excited that it's hard to keep still. There's a special market open today, with the theme today being living things. Vendors all around town are selling plants, animals, and livestock. A beautiful blue bird catches Sherbian's eye. In fact, it's a buyingpi, the bird whose feathers are super high fashion right now. Of course, she also has some pretty painful memories associated with them, so she quickly moves her father and Hex along before they can stop and buy her one. They also pass by a house selling Harmon tea, with a line all the way down the street. Inside, a woman is pleading with the owner, begging him to give her daughter some tea. You see, because Harmon tea is so necessary, every citizen in the Empire has a designated day on which to receive their dose. Today is the mother's designated day, but not her daughter's, so the owner refuses to give anyone a sip of tea except her. When Sherbian lays eyes on the woman herself, she immediately recognizes her as the same doctor who in the future will discover the kasha flower's medicinal properties. The Emperor is watching too, and though Hex tries to move them along, he orders him to call an Imperial doctor instead. While they wait for medical help, he sits his daughter down on a bench. Time for a royal life lesson, little madam. It's impossible to solve every problem and help every citizen in trouble, but he acknowledges that one should never turn a blind eye to suffering before them. So when the doctor comes, he promises to go with Sherby to give all the help they can. Later that day, Dr. Madeline's daughter is given a medical checkup. Since the illness is serious, it can't be cured in one go. The Imperial doctor promises to visit every day and tells her mother not to lose hope. Once they're back in the palace, Adrian reassures his daughter that she did everything she could and tells her not to worry. Right, like that's gonna suddenly make all her worries disappear. Sherbian can't sleep that night, so she gets up and asks Ellie for a favor. She wanders out to the garden to pick some kasha flowers. With Ellie's help, the flowers are transported to Dr. Madeline, who is incredibly grateful yet again for the princess's assistance. A few days later, news arrives at the palace that her daughter's fever has gone down. So I guess we can add medical prodigy to the list of Sherbian's achievements. While she's putting out fevers, her father is battling rising grain prices. Apparently, there have been issues with the trade routes during storm season, but still the increase is far worse than they expected. The thing about grain is that it has to be transported through 2 different kingdoms before it reaches the Erveldote territory. Apparently, one of those kingdoms, the Tungha Kingdom, is now charging an absurd toll for passing through, which is causing the inflation. The Emperor orders an investigation into the toll and then runs right off to give his daughter yet another present for no conceivable reason. Although, I can't complain, because this time it's magical fairy wings, which is actually so cool. They can even make her fly. I can't think of a better present for a 7-year-old, and clearly, Sherby is delighted. While she's up in the air having the time of her life, Hex appears at the sidelines. As usual, his presence is a sign that there's more work to be done, so Adrian pulls his daughter from the air and says he has to go and work. Sherbian looks sad. After all, when has her dad ever rejected her company in favor of his duties before? This might actually be the first time, I think. Even so, Sherbian is a good daughter. She swallows her complaints and sits quietly while Hex hands over a report from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Tungha Kingdom have indeed raised their toll. But the question is, why? Hex sort of suggests that the King of Tungha is just a nasty guy, but there's got to be more to it than that. While they're discussing, Sherbian suddenly has another flashback to her past life. She remembers this incident, and it's going to get a lot worse down the line. In her past life, the rising cost of grain caused starvation across the empire for the common folk. It was partly because of the incident that the food waste scandal in the princess's palace became such a big controversy. Well, luckily, she's already sidestepped that one. But starvation is never good. If Sherbian can find a way to avoid the same outcome, I'm sure it would work in her favor by increasing her popularity again. Adrian asks his advisor if there have been any known arguments between the kingdoms of Tungha and the grain suppliers, the Nabapal Kingdom. Apparently, they don't have the best relationship, but since signing a trade contract, there have been no fights. Adrian is trying to figure out why the heck they suddenly raised the toll so outrageously when he notices the ring on his daughter's finger. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm sure it will be fine, just as long as she doesn't mention Carmen's name. Which is exactly what she does next. Well, it was nice knowing you, Carmen. Have a nice life in exile. Immediately, Adrian's mood changes to fury. He takes the ring from her at once and only gives it back once it has been thoroughly researched. And actually, who can blame him? This girl had an allergic reaction not 2 days ago. She probably shouldn't be taking gifts from strangers. According to Sherby's memory, the rise in grain prices is going to escalate soon. There were lots of excuses as to why the price is raised, but in the end, it was all revealed to be a lie. In her past life, it was revealed that the Nabapal and the Tungha kingdoms were in cahoots to drive prices higher. Sherbian is thinking through all this in the gardens when she's interrupted by the Master of the Magic Tower. He thinks she's come to visit him to learn magic. Master Ellison is also surprisingly fond of her already, even though they haven't interacted much. Sherbian clears up the misunderstanding and confides in him about the grain crisis. Obviously, the old man is quite surprised to see someone so young as the princess worrying about the economic crisis, but he finds it endearing and promises to clear her concerns by investigating the matter himself. She even makes him pinky promise, and the Tower Master agrees. Well, that was easy. Once again, batting her lashes and smiling sweetly at people has worked in Sherby's favor. Meanwhile, little Damian has been given his first political matter as prince. He was tasked with finding the sorcerer who kidnapped children, that wicked man named Antonio, who has been invading the imperial authorities since he escaped the palace. Damian was so committed to his duty that he even disguised himself as a kidnapped child to infiltrate his ranks. Talk about dedication! His father is also impressed with his commitment, but scolds him for taking such a risk. Well, for about 2 seconds, and then he pats him on the head and tells him good job. So I'm not sure Damian is really going to learn any lessons here. after he's concluded his report, the Magic Tower Master arrives, bringing news about the grain crisis. He was true to his promise and went to ask about the trade route issue, but he ended up discovering something much more serious. He contacted mages in the south of the Empire who were mobilized for the war. However, not one of those mages actually participated in any fighting, which is strange since no matter how small a conflict is, mages are always central to a victory. It doesn't take long for the Emperor to realize the war must have been made up. And if that's the case, who knows what else the kingdoms of Nabopol and Tunga have been lying about? More troubling than that, however, is the fact that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs missed such a glaring error. If you're wondering how a government official failed to find out what a magician managed in an hour, I'll let you guess who was in charge of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yeah, that's right. Our old friend Duke Pakor. Clearly, the family have crossed a line this time. It's kind of an uncomfortable situation for Damian, since that's his uncle. But he makes it clear that he's on Sherbian's side. Any loyalty to his mother is gone at this point. The next morning, Dr. Madeline is called to the palace to see the princess. She turns up physically shaking, clearly a little stressed to be in the presence of royalty. Sherbian tries to calm her down with some tea and cakes, before asking about her daughter Anna. Through tears and hiccups, Madeline tells her Anna is getting better, and then offers to sacrifice her life for the princess. Okay, girl, calm down. She literally just sent you some herbs. You don't need to go that far. As anyone would be, Sherbian is a little uncomfortable. So Ellie steps in to assure Madeline that Anna's health is more than enough. No ritual sacrifice will be required, thank you very much. Although, Sherbian does have one small favor to ask. She wants the doctor to take credit for discovering the effect of the kasha flowers, in the hopes that she will conduct more research and make the remedy widely available to the public. Little does this lady know, that's what she did in her past life anyway, just about 10 years down the line. Militant in her loyalty, Madeline agrees immediately and promises to work her hardest to save even more children in the future. In the Magic Tower, Carmen is getting a good scolding from Master Ellison for making the library all messy. They look like they might be about to throw hands when the Emperor's arrival is announced. Surprisingly, he's not here for Ellison, he actually came for Carmen. The poor boy is probably sweating buckets when Adrian walks up to him and mentions the ring. He starts rambling about Sherbian someday growing up and leaving her father's side. Wait, is this going where I think it's going? Is he setting up Carmen for marriage? Actually, no. After all that buildup, he crushes the little boy's hopes by saying he would never give his daughter away to such a weak magician. Ouch, Adrian. You don't need to be so harsh. He's still just a kid after all. After that awkward encounter, Damian and Carmen sit down to study together, and the prince says the exact same thing. Literally. Today is really not Carmen's day. Sherbian, oblivious to all the ego-crushing going on behind the scenes, is gifted another beautiful ring by her father. Although it's very pretty, it's also immune to poison. So really, he just wanted to one-up Carmen's ring since it's only resistant and not immune to poison. Who would have thought a fully grown adult male, the emperor of a country no less, would be so threatened by a little magician boy? I can't believe this guy sometimes. He suggests she take the other one off, but Sherby doesn't want to. Double the rings means double the protection after all. After the double beating Carmen has taken, he announces his desire to become a knight, which comes as quite a shock to Sherbian. It's his destiny to grow up and become one of the strongest masters the Magic Tower has ever seen. Sherby asks what made him want to change careers, suspecting some foul play, but Carmen brushes it off. Actually, in his status window, he says he wants to become strong enough to protect the princess, and for that, he needs power. So Sherby tries a different tactic. She tells him to follow his heart, though it's a shame if he gives up magic. Since all the coolest people in her life are magicians, she has always thought there's nothing better than that. Which immediately makes Carmen change his mind. Sort of. He decides to be both, a knight and a magician. Sounds like the quickest path to failure if you ask me. Just stick to what you're good at, sweetie. He promises to continue focusing on his magic studies, and because things have been far too peaceful, Damian just has to barge in. He immediately makes a comment about magicians being physically weak, which makes me think he was listening at the door for that whole conversation. Damian, you're a prince. Act like it. Carmen is very smug when he repeats what Sherbian said about magicians being cool, and that seems to settle this round of fighting. At least for now. After the boys have gone, Sherbian decides to attempt her second trip to the library. Of course, Adante is right behind her, watching her take out a book of imperial family history. she's hoping to find a way to help her father and brother by seeing what other Imperial members did when they weren't in line for the throne. She stumbles across one who started a charity organization. That person played a big role in supporting the war and saving the poor from starvation. Sounds like the perfect job for Sherby. She's just putting the book back when she gets yelled at by this guy with green hair, telling her no one is supposed to be allowed in the library. Apparently, this guy's a librarian, though he looks more like a stoner to me. Wasn't he basically just sleeping on that pile of books? Once he recognizes the princess, he's a lot calmer. She gets a chance to look at his status window and realizes that despite his attitude, he's actually a pretty high-level magician. His name is Tonka Mallow, and he clearly just wants her to leave so he can go back to napping. Kind of relatable, not gonna lie. Sherbian decides to grant his wish and leaves the library. More time passes and eventually, summer arrives. Almost a year on, the delegation from Garambel have returned, bringing Marco back with them. Sherby is anxious to see him again, but first they have to report to the Emperor. And they brought some good news. Their mission was only to open an import market through Garambel and the western kingdom of Mosai. But they managed to reach a trade agreement that can feed about a third of the Empire's population. Well, that will certainly be helpful with the grain crisis still in play. And Marco played a big part in making sure the agreement all ran smoothly. He also lets Adrian in on Sherbian's secret, that she asked him to secure some food to be distributed in the slums after he returned. I guess that's plus 10 points for Sherbian. She's getting more and more popular by the day. But there's also bad news. The reason the delegation were away for so long was because a representative sent by the Foreign Ministry obstructed negotiations. It's that damn Duke of Pakor again, sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Once again, fingers are being pointed at the Empress's brother. While suspicion is rising among the council, Marco and Sherbian are reunited over cake and tea, of course. She's very grateful for all his hard work. Thanks to the negotiation with the Mosai Kingdom, the grain prices have stabilized, meaning the crisis is averted. Anyone else struggling to process all this economic talk? I thought this was a manhwa about a baby princess, but she's turning into a member of the Emperor's cabinet faster than I can keep up. Sherbian begins to visit the library more frequently, though she's not there to read. She visits because she's curious about Tonka, who seems to be a very lazy individual considering his magical abilities. Every time he sits down to nap, Sherby wakes him up and tells him to get back to work. And it's not like his work is very hard. He just has to keep the place clean and reshelf books. So why is he acting like it's the 12 tasks of Hercules? But between all her nagging, he's actually starting to study magic again. As a reward, she brings him little snacks to keep him motivated, which, again, is a big mood. These days, Sherbian is making new friends left and right. After spending time at the library with Tonka, she's introduced to Lala, a cute little pink-haired girl who's come to play with her. Unfortunately, Sherbian remembers Lala from her past life, and not for good reasons. She used to make up stories about the princess hitting her and being mean, so it's kind of disturbing to see her acting so sweet and kind in this life. They used to be so close, and yet their friendship ended in betrayal. It's haunted Sherbian for years. She never knew why Lala turned on her in the end. That is, until today. Her status window reveals the truth, that Lala is a spy for the Empress. Clearly, Isabel isn't done with her tricks just yet. Lala suggests they read together. She must have heard that Sherbian can't read yet, and suggested it on purpose to make her upset. For such a cute little thing, she really is nasty. She's trying to provoke Sherbian, probably to get some kind of reaction out of her. This is tough. The poor princess is going to have to be on her guard if they continue to play together. Even Ellie and Jane have no idea what's going on, although they are a bit surprised to hear that Sherby asked to read a book since they know she doesn't read. Oh, and to make matters even worse, Lala has picked the meanest story she could possibly find. It's all about a princess in an empire who was so evil that everyone hated and cursed her. I can't believe this. It's so obvious, it's almost laughable. But to someone like Sherbian who has real trauma from her past life, it's hard for Lala not to get to her. Even her thoughts are hoping she will cry and calling her stupid. How could such a young girl be so horrible? The story even ends with a death penalty and people throwing garbage on the storybook princess. She's really struggling to hold back tears at this point, but she can't let Lala see her cry. That's right, Sherby. The best way to beat this pink-haired witch is by ignoring her. Maybe that way the Empress will get bored and give up. After their first meeting, Lala is introduced to the Emperor himself and plays the perfect part of an innocent little girl. Unfortunately, her father is Count Mursino, a loyal servant to the imperial family, which means the emperor has good reason to be kind to her. While she's being sweet and polite to Adrian, Sherbian can see that her father is clearly just as evil as his daughter, and is secretly planning a future betrayal against the emperor. Sherby tries to get her father's attention, but Lala immediately turns it against her, suggesting that the princess doesn't like her having breakfast with them and that she should leave. Yeah, you should, but don't make it sound like it's Sherby's fault. Luckily, the emperor isn't so easily swayed against his own daughter. This girl has no idea who she's up against. He sends Lala away, but as she's leaving, Sherbian catches her planning something evil in her mind. Uh-oh, what will she get up to next? Whatever she's planning is a secret for now, because the next day the girls are playing in the garden as per usual. Good news is that she doesn't have to do much sleuthing to see what her next move is. With Lala's thoughts on display, she can see everything she's up to, including how she's going to fake getting hurt while they're away from the adults. Lala starts a game of hide and seek and runs off right away. Not wanting to get cornered with a fake injury, she looks around for Erveldote, hiding in the bushes nearby. She calls him out, claiming to be too scared to stand alone. But really, what the princess wants is a witness. Lala can't pretend that they got into a fight if Erveldote is there the whole time watching them. Looks like Sherbian's hard work is paying off. Things won't be the same as in her past life, not with Sir Royd hanging around. When Lala turns up to Jane with bumps and bruises on her face and arms, she does an excellent job at playing the victim. But her plan goes down the pan when Sherbian and Erveldote arrive a moment later. Lala is shocked when she realizes that they were being followed the whole time. Once Erveldote has told his side of the story to the maids, their suspicion turns on the girl. Jane especially. She decides to pay close attention to Miss Mursino in the future, and decides to report this incident to the Emperor next time she sees him. The next day, Lala is introduced to Damian, who is very kind and inviting. Once again, Lala tries to play the victim by spinning the situation so that it seems like Sherbian doesn't like her. So the poor thing has to turn around and act all friendly, inviting her to lunch. Someone give this girl an Oscar. I'm not sure I could act that sweet to someone so vicious. While the three of them are eating together, it's revealed that not only does Lala have the aid of the Empress, but one of Damian's own servants is on her side too. The question is, which one? At one point, Lala makes an excuse to sneak off, probably to communicate with whichever one of the staff is secretly a spy. When she returns, Sherbian is highly suspicious, but for the moment she hasn't done anything out of the ordinary. In the meantime, she gets a moment of peace when Carmen meets her in the gardens, but only a moment. Lala comes running over to interrupt, and when she spots Carmen, she pulls out her best performance yet. She acts as though she's afraid of Sherbian, like she thought someone as small and sweet as the princess was going to hit her just now. Right, like that's going to fool anyone. Ever loyal to his crush, Carmen is not convinced, and immediately gets into an argument with her about whether she should even be allowed to hang out with the Emperor's daughter. Okay guys, it's not a competition. Lala is trying to take the princess somewhere, so instead of following along, Sherby and Carmen just kind of run away. Like, literally sprinting into the woods. From then on, Sherby does her best to avoid her playmate, but it's not exactly easy. Getting desperate, one dark night, Lala tries to sneak into her bedroom to plant some kind of object there. I guess with the intention of framing her? But just as she reaches the door, she is caught by good old Erveldote, who stops her in her tracks. Lala is immediately taken by the guards. She cries all the way about how unfair it is, saying that she was only trying to do as the princess told her. Yeah, right, Lala. Save it for the judge. Erveldote is not convinced by her pathetic act and orders her to be carried out. Hopefully this means she'll be gone for good. I don't know about you guys, but I really can't stand that girl. Sherby has to be pretty pleased with herself. In her past life, she could never outwit Lala and was always at the hands of the Empress. This time around, she's smart enough to corner her enemies and put them behind bars. Of course, her ever-loving father, the Emperor, just thinks she's a victim and not the mastermind behind all of this. While he's comforting her, Hex arrives with some bad news. After the capture of his adopted daughter, Count Mursino's residence was raided. Unfortunately, they didn't find any evidence of him conspiring against the Emperor. The Count himself was also gone. I guess he left Lala to fend for herself. The little spy is still insisting that she only did as she was told, but naturally, Adrian doesn't believe her. Instead of suspecting his daughter, He asks Sherbian if her playmate did anything suspicious lately. Yeah, dude. A whole bunch of stuff? Haven't you been paying attention? Ellie is the one to provide the ultimate evidence of Lala's betrayal. Carmen gave them a magical stone that can store images, kinda like a camera. Ellie shows it to Adrian, revealing all the harsh and horrible things Lala said to the princess when she thought no one was around. Lala's fate is truly sealed when the Magic Tower Master confirms what was in the box she was trying to bring Sherbian. They're all unlucky objects containing negative energy. Although, I don't know if they really needed the Tower Master to tell them that. I mean, look, one of them is literally a skull. That's the final straw for Adrian. Furious, he orders the retrieval and arrest of Count Mersino and demands that every noble associated with him is investigated too. He reassures Sherbian that she is safe. He won't let anyone hurt her, he says, and kisses her forehead. Now that all the Mersino nastiness has been taken care of, Sherby can dedicate herself to the important things, like creating a welfare fund for the poor. She suggests the idea to Marco, who once again underestimates the princess. He reminds her that operating a fund requires a lot of money, like a lot. Because it's a long-term project, he recommends she establish a trade guild first to build up her resources. They can establish an organization affiliated with a trade guild, and from there, they can make the fund. Simple. Well, not really. It's going to take years and a heck of a lot of cash, but Sherby has got the time and power to make it happen. Plus, she is really passionate about helping the poor children of the Empire. She's even got her brother Damian involved in her plans. Damian had been tracking down the whereabouts of the children that the evil Antonio had kidnapped and sold. He managed to rescue them and bring them back to the Empire. Wait, Damian did all that? He's heading missions all by himself now? They really do grow up so fast. Today, they've thrown a party to congratulate him on saving all those kids. But instead of celebrating himself, Damian seems nervous. He wants good futures for the children, so he invited them all to this party in hopes that the nobles will take pity and sponsor them. The Emperor walks in and congratulates his son. Soon after, the Duke Pakor arrives. I didn't think it was possible for him to hate Sherby any more than he already did, but apparently, now his preference score for her is minus 3,000. Well, that's incredibly suspicious. The Emperor raises a toast and invites the saved children into the ballroom. Understandably, they look stressed. They've had a hard life after all. A quick peek inside Hex's thoughts even reveals that some of them were sold by their own parents. And that really tugs on Sherby's heartstrings. After all, she understands the feeling of being abandoned by your family, feeling like the world is against you. In the crowd of kids, Sherbian spots Angel, a famous girl she remembers from her past life for being an incredibly talented magician. She basically developed a whole new theory of magic, so she's pretty much a genius. But right now, she's still just a scared child. Feeling sorry for the future prodigy, Sherbian decides that she wants to help every one of those kids and set them up with bright futures. Although there's one kid she should probably leave behind, because one of the boys is a spy for the kingdom of Nabapal. And boy is he determined. His thoughts are dark, like really dark. He wants to destroy everything to do with the Erveldote Empire because he blames them for abandoning him. But that doesn't make sense. He wouldn't be here right now if the Empire hadn't saved him. The only good news is that he's a pretty low-level spy, so he's not going to do much harm, just yet. This is certainly an interesting turn of events. The famous magical theorist Angel and a spy from Nabapal have both arrived in the Imperial Palace. Poor Sherbian's head is spinning. Once again, she's going to have to find a way to save the Empire without admitting she can see people's thoughts. In the meantime, she's more worried about Damian, who isn't able to enjoy the party because he's so concerned about the children. Apparently, none of the nobles were interested in sponsoring the children, so their fates are just as uncertain now as they were before. So the next day, Sherbian approaches her father to ask him a favor. She wants to establish the welfare fund and has even prepared a document detailing all the required steps. Adrian is impressed, but like Marco, he warns her that this will be no easy task. Sherbian assures him that she will have Marco support the whole way and tells him they'll be setting up a trading guild to continue earning while the welfare fund grows. After a long afternoon of discussion, the Emperor is finally convinced. The princess's palace is quickly overrun by preparations for the establishment of the various organizations designed to earn money for the fund. Sherby has come up with the idea of selling scented candles at first, which is a cute idea. Who knew that this sweet little princess would grow up to be a small business owner at the age of just 7? She's also roped Tonka into her plans, since she also needs a research organization for magical formulas. Don't ask me why. This is already too complex for me to wrap my head around. We just have to trust that Sherby knows what she's doing. Obviously, Tonka doesn't like the idea of working. He doesn't like the idea of doing anything at all, really. But no matter how many times he asks to resign, the princess won't let him. Talk about a challenging work environment. I don't know if that's legal, Sherby. Anyway, she wants Tonka so that Angel has a good mentor and can achieve her full potential. She feeds him snacks to keep him going, and slowly the welfare fund starts coming to life. One of the aims of the fund is to support other people who are allergic to Harmon grass, just like Sherbian. She was expecting it to be a rare allergy, but actually their research comes back and says there are quite a few people who can't drink it, and the numbers have only been growing in the last 50 years or so. This is where Tonka comes in handy. He knows a little about Harmon allergies. Turns out, spending all that time in the library paid off after all. But there's a very strange detail about all the nobles recorded with a Harmon allergy. Get this, all the people Marco knows died from unexplained accidents, and all of them had received treatment from the Duke Pakor. How's that for suspicious? I can't believe this guy has been getting away with this for so long. The next day, Sherbian asks her brother to accompany her on a trip to the city. They both dye their hair as a disguise, but if Damian was expecting a cute trip around town, he's gonna be pretty disappointed when they rock up to the Information Guild of Justice. Sherby just wants to investigate something and assures her brother there's nothing serious going on. Also, how adorable does she look with brown hair? The Justice Guild are eager to serve them. I guess they don't get a lot of visitors. Borgher, the guildmaster, immediately recognizes them, but he pretends not to and treats them very kindly just the same. Sherbian hands over the documents about Harmon and the Pakor family and asks him to investigate. Even though it's putting his neck on the line, the guildmaster accepts. While all her projects are on full blast in the background, Sherbian's 8th birthday rolls around in no time. Finally, Sherby has reached the age to start formal education, which means she has to do a magical aptitude assessment. At this point, it's kind of just a formality. The princess is already famous across the empire for her mana count. But that doesn't mean it's not a stressful day. The terrifyingly named Judgment Sphere is going to measure her mana levels and turn a certain color according to her magical potential. In her past life, it turned black. She was the first royal in imperial history to have no mana at all. So you can't blame Sherbian for being a little traumatized when she reaches for it. Of course, this time, things are totally different. The sphere glows white and emits golden rays of light. This only happens for magicians with truly incredible potential, so she's totally shocked. She runs out to her father and starts crying while the Tower Master tells him what happened. It's an emotional moment for the princess. From now on, she cannot be denied any of the things she missed out on in her past life. Finally, she is taking the path that she was always destined to take. On the morning of her birthday, Sherby wakes up to find her body and mind synced at almost 25%. We're getting there, guys! Her birthday also coincides with the official establishment of the welfare fund they've been prepping so hard for. But when Marco and Sherbian arrive at their new office, they find a big sign saying, Mana Fairy Welfare Fund over the front door. I'll give you one chance to guess who named it that. The man responsible also has an ambitious schedule lined up for her schooling. He wants her to study both throne inheritance and magic, which is kind of surprising since her brother is the one in line for the throne, not her. She's worried that taking classes like that might start rumors about her ambition. Even worse, it might upset Damian. But Adrian reports that her brother actually wants her to study inheritance. That way, they can take classes together. Seeing her hesitation, he tells Sherby it's important to study even if she doesn't want to become emperor. The class also teaches how to love the subjects of the empire and would be really beneficial for running her welfare fund. Well, that's what he says anyway. And of course, after hearing that, Sherby can't refuse. What she doesn't know is that only a few days ago, the Empress approached her husband, asking to be involved in her stepdaughter's education. She claims to want to nurture Sherbian to help her through her first classes as a symbolic act of blah blah blah. I mean, seriously, who does she think she's fooling? You tried to kill her twice already. Adrian puts her straight, and once the Empress realizes Sherby is going to be taking inheritance classes, she loses her cool. Obviously, she would hate the idea of the princess threatening her son's future position, but she can't do anything about it. Sherbian's first day of magic lessons arrive. She's going to be taught personally by the master of the magic tower, who teleports her to the tower itself. It's the first time she's been allowed inside, and since it's literally another dimension, it's no wonder she's so excited to be there. He shows her one of the ancient huge trees that was brought over by the goblins. Oh yeah, apparently they exist too, just in case you didn't know. The first emperor was a good friend of the goblin chieftain who helped him establish the Erveldote Empire. But if you're thinking of little green things with scraggly beards, you need to get that out of your mind right now. These goblins are very different. Actually, they kind of just seem like super attractive people with pointy ears. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of them at some point. Initially, the goblins were able to communicate with trees and access the network inside them. Every magician who enters the magic tower receives a branch from the tower master's own tree. That might sound a little silly, but the branches can transform into a laboratory designed for the needs of the individual who plants it, so they're pretty cool actually. Meanwhile, the Emperor has finally found out what the thief from all those years ago was trying to take from the vault. It's the blood of the first Emperor, contained in one of those magical spheres. If you remember, anyone who enters the vault needs the blood of the Emperor in order to not get lost and trapped inside forever. Somehow, I feel like that can only mean bad things for Sherby. If they try again, maybe they'll decide to take the Emperor's descendant instead. But anyway, back to the magic tower. Sherby meets Carmen and Damian inside, since they're going to be taking lessons all together from now on. Afterwards, Sherby is exhausted. Magic is hard enough on its own, but with her brother and Carmen fighting for her attention, I can only imagine how tired she must be. Despite her busy schedule, the princess still finds time to visit Marco and check in on the fund regularly. Dr. Madeline has started working for them now. She's been researching the kasha flower just like Sherby asked, and she's just as, dedicated as before. The children saved from the kidnapper Antonio have also found a place at the fund, so Sherbian pays them a visit. Angel is quick to thank her for all her assistance, while Jaco the spy just sits there being arrogant. Somehow, his spy level has actually gone down since the party. How bad must this kid be? Jaco seems to be expecting some contact from the Nabapal kingdom soon, so Sherbian decides to keep an eye out for any incoming visitors. The next day, Damian and Sherbian are sitting down to study together when suddenly, the Empress storms in, yelling something about security. Instead of addressing why she suddenly interrupted them, the first thing the Empress does is scold Sherbian for not greeting her properly. Excuse me, ma'am, she doesn't owe you anything. If anything, you should be the one bowing to her. Reluctantly, Sherbian gets out of her seat to curtsy. Damian is embarrassed by his mother and asks her to leave. But instead, she makes a rude comment about Sherby's common mother and demands she withdraw from the inheritance class immediately. Now, we know by now that this woman is not the sharpest tool in the shed. But honestly, how was she expecting this to go? Damian and Sherby will both tell their dad what happened, and she'll be punished even further. Like, what is she thinking? She says the princess has received far too much lenient treatment already, and that inheritance classes are way out of line for her duties. And when Sherbian plucks up the courage to refuse, she tries to slap her. Okay, let me get in there. I'm ready to teach this witch a lesson myself. Damian steps in front just in time to defend her, which shocks his mother. He says it's kind of an insult if she thinks his shot at Emperor is really so weak that she has to threaten Sherby to defend it. And actually, he makes a good point. Why not trying to have faith in your son rather than physically assaulting a child, Empress? Huh? Damian tells the guards to take her back to her own quarters. Once she's gone, he reassures Sherby that she just needs to focus on her studies. But the next time she goes to class, there's a new character waiting to teach her. This green-haired woman introduces herself as Della Dixie with a sly smile. I mean, come on. She's literally screaming suspicious from head to toe. Countess Dixie was Sherbian's etiquette teacher in her past life, so she already knows what to expect from this woman. In those days, she was always putting pressure on the princess and deliberately taught her the wrong things to get her in trouble. And of course, someone that cruel could only be working for the Empress. Looks like she has just the same motives this time around. But Sherby is prepared. She welcomes Dixie with a polite smile and invites her to sit down for some tea. The Countess is surprised to see a child so young who already knows all the right etiquette for a princess. But before they begin class, Dixie asks for permission to touch the princess. Apparently, it's so that she can correct her posture, but obviously, she's just going to use that excuse to pinch her and be mean. Ellie is outraged by the suggestion that someone like the Countess be permitted to touch the princess, especially given the Emperor's strict level of protection around her. So just like that, Dixie's plans are shot down. You won't be getting your way in this life, evil Countess. Sherbian has protection now. There are lots of people looking out for her. At the end of a long day of classes, Sherby's final lesson is history. Count Bianche is going to be her teacher, and although they haven't met, he already has a very high preference level for the princess. Bianche is also a character who appeared in her past life. He's very strict, but seems to have her best interests at heart. Plus, a quick read of his thoughts reveals that he had refused the Empress's attempts to win him over. So, at least there's one teacher we can trust to actually do their job. After her rigorous schooling is done, Sherbian pays a visit to Carmen and brings him a big basket of sweets as a token of her friendship. When she takes out an embroidery set, he's impressed. Well, until he sees what she's been sewing, that is. I guess she can't be good at everything. Like the lovely gentleman he is, Carmen offers to help her and asks her to give over the needle and thread. Is it normal for mages to know how to sew in this empire? Sherby learns that Carmen has a lot to handle at the mines, including the lurking monsters, which surprises her. And when she notices that Carmen is contemplating whether to trust the mage who accompanied him, her concern intensifies. She then remembers that the Kujad mine was managed by Count Mersino in her past life, and had to shut down because of the monsters, which adds to her anxiety. So she quickly asks Carmen to promise that he'll be careful, and they seal their promise with a pinky swear. These two are just the cutest. That day, Sherby visits Madeline at the guild and shares her idea about writing a book, which confuses Madeline. Sherby explains that they could create a list of easily found herbs for the poor, detailing their appearance, uses, and effects. This idea excites Madeline because she believes it will empower the poor to gather herbs for themselves, especially since physicians offer discounts to those who bring their own herbs. Although this project will require significant effort from Madeline, she is willing to take it on and assures Sherby that she'll do anything for her. Sherby then notices everyone is busy and discovers that it's the day for their food market fair, which fascinates our little girl, causing Sir Lloyd to let her go, but only in disguise. They all then go together, and Sherby's eyes light up with enthusiasm because she hasn't been out in a long time. However, she is surprised to see Jaco in one corner and understands he is still a spy for the Nabapal, leading her to believe he is spying on someone. Madeline notices Sherby's reaction, which leads her to express her concern about what Jaco is doing alone. Madeline suspects Jaco is looking for his parents. The Foundation is working to reunite the children with their families. But Jaco's parents are the only ones they haven't been able to contact. And while they have asked him to be patient and give them more time, Madeline now realizes he doesn't want to wait. The next day, Jaco looks for his parents again, feeling sad at their continued absence. And just as he's on the verge of tears, he hears someone calling him from behind. 3 men smile at Jaco, knowing him as one of the welfare boys looking for his parents. One of the men quickly grabs Jaco's shoulder, claiming he knows his parents' location, but he wants payment for this information. Jaco reacts irritably, prompting the man to escalate his aggression and prepare to strike him. But luckily, Sherby arrives just in time to intervene, insisting that the man cease his actions and leave Jaco alone. Witnessing her magical power makes the men panic, and they quickly run away. Overwhelmed, Jaco bursts into tears and tells Sherby that all he wants is to find his parents, prompting her to reassure him that she will help find them because she believes she knows where they are. Soon after, they arrive at the outskirts, leaving Jaco wondering why his parents are there. Sherby reassures him that they will understand once they locate his parents, and she encourages him not to worry, promising that she will find them, which leads Jaco to express his heartfelt thanks to her. Darling, that's a big promise. What if they're dead? Jaco calls out to his parents, and when he finally finds them, they look surprised to see him. Jaco gives them a warm smile, but his father doesn't look too pleased to see him. Jaco then starts to cry while Sherby learns from the status window that his parents are anxious about the Foundation possibly kicking Jaco out if they discover that they're still alive. Sherby quickly reassures them that Jaco won't be expelled, but his parents still seem hesitant, which prompts Sherby to declare, as the princess, she will guarantee it, so they shouldn't worry about telling Jaco the truth. Jaco's parents then reveal that they have hypomanatrophy, a rare illness that drains strength from the entire body, gradually leading to energy loss and potentially death. He shares that they were searching for treatment, but when they got back home, Jaco had already been kidnapped. After that, they express their gratitude to the princess for saving their son and reuniting them. But Sherby quickly turns to her brother, proudly declaring that she didn't save Jaco, her brother did. Jaco's father thanked Damian, explaining that they had neglected his son to pursue some silly possibility of a cure that had piqued Sherby's interest. Jaco's father then reveals that they have discovered someone who can provide them with Hallman tea, which causes Damian to shake his head and remind them that Hallman tea cannot be supplied by others, which confuses them because they had obtained it directly from House Pakor. The tea should totally be free, right? The rich are just always so greedy, like, seriously. Jaco's father confirms that he went to the House Pakor and even sold their house because Duke Pakor could cure them. But after Jaco disappeared, their focus shifted entirely to searching for him, and they never made it to Duke Pakor's infirmary. When Jaco's family found out about the kidnapped children who had returned with the Crown Prince, they rushed to see him. But Duke Pakor's people intervened, warning them that Jaco would lose all welfare benefits if the Foundation learned his parents were still alive, so they decided not to pursue it further. Damian thinks deeply as Sherby eagerly anticipates the results from the Justice Guild. She then informs Jaco's family that the Foundation will secure a place for them to stay, which they gratefully accept, thanking her sincerely. A few days later, Jaco visits Sherby and nervously reveals that he's been working as a spy, secretly reporting on the palace's activities, though he knows this is wrong. About time to confess! He trembles as he expresses his sincere apology that Sherby accepts and chooses not to punish him, but he needs to explain how he ended up in that situation. Reluctantly, Jaco recounts how he was kidnapped by a mage and imprisoned in a dark dungeon alongside many other children. The spying task is straightforward. He only needs to go to a specific location at a designated time to retrieve a letter left for him. The envelope will open when he adds a drop of his blood, and the contents can only be read using his blood. After he answers the questions, they will inform him where the next letter will be. Jaco trembles as he admits that he's too scared to stop spying, fearing that they might find and hurt him. This poor baby is just a traumatized boy trying to survive. He even feels as though they're still watching him, especially since they put letters inside the palace. Sherby then reassures him that she will keep him safe and will inform her father about his parents so they can receive treatment, but she wants to know the next location and time. Jaco waits at the meeting spot while the royal siblings watch from a rooftop, and as soon as the mysterious man drops the letter, the knights seize him quickly. However, things aren't going their way because before they can even arrest him, he takes his life. And to make matters worse, when they place Jaco's blood on the letter, it bursts into flames. This enemy likes to self-destruct everything. After all that, they discovered nothing. When they return to the Foundation, Sherby becomes confused as to why Jaco retains his Nabapal spy status. But when the small boy urgently explains that he has no idea why the letter burned, our baby girl believes him. She even tells him that the Emperor will let him stay at the Foundation and even assist his parents in recovering, causing him to cry as he expresses his gratitude. Darling, the status window is dropping some major hints. So sorry to this kid, but I wouldn't completely trust you just yet. Let's set aside the drama for a bit and just appreciate how adorable Sherby looks today when Damian tells her that they will be visiting the Mose Kingdom together. This is truly making her excited because she has never had the chance to explore outside the Empire in her past life. She is really looking forward to seeing the ocean, which Big Bro believes is possible if they take a little detour. To his surprise, his little sister hugs him, which makes him even more determined to show her the ocean, even if it means delaying their plans. I love me a doting big brother! The truth is that Sherby is permitted to go to Mose Kingdom since the Garambel Prince invited her, and since Damian will also be visiting Mose to discuss the grain agreement, they arranged to meet there as well. Of course, before leaving, the Emperor gives Sherby a magical necklace that will protect her in case of an emergency, and he even considers accompanying her to Mose. Sir, I know you love her, but please fulfill your duties. Now, as they're on their way, they hear knights in action at the back, so Damian goes to investigate, while Sir Lloyd assures Sherby that it's simply a monster called Caribou, and that it's not very strong. I'm picturing a wolf monster or something, but why the heck is that not strong monster a red dragon? It demonstrates its so-called not strong power by launching an attack on Jane's carriage with its blazing fire, prompting Sherby to step in and save her maid. She manages to hold the dragon, but not for long. And fortunately, Damian finishes it off while looking worried at her and enraged at the knights. To avoid escalating the situation, Sherby uses her adorable face, which is quite effective in melting Damian's heart, and she also receives the monster's core that she slayed. They say it's nothing extraordinary, just a prize for killing a monster, yet she can feel energy emitted from it. Because of the caribou attack, they decide to camp for the night, and she uses the purifying magic she learned from the Tower Master to feel revitalized. She then discovers the monster core has blood stains, so she decides to perform the purifying magic on it, and to her surprise, the entire core turns white. Ooh, this could be useful in the future! When they arrive at Mose Kingdom, Marco informs Sherby that he is heading to the city for some work, which he intends to complete early so he may rest. My poor money lover has already developed black circles. Aside from assisting with the grain agreement, Marco is also busy with their guild as they want to create a branch in Mose. He works really hard, making Sherby feel bad and considering raising his pay. But for today, she and Damian have chosen to take a good rest. The next day, they are greeted warmly by King Abderol Mose, who, thank goodness, does not have a negative status. King Abderol's grandson is actually Prince Averell Garambel, who has been speaking well of our princess, so the old man is delighted to feed her sweets. Following that, the king and Damian resume their discussion of the grain agreement, which drags on for several days until the Garambel envoy arrives with the prince, who looks delighted to see Sherby. As he cheerfully greets her, Big Bro hisses at him like a cat and shoos him away, suggesting that he should take a rest. The prince, feeling frightened by Damian, walks away with his head down. But then he pauses, turning to Sherby, and musters up the courage to ask if she's free tomorrow. Gotta respect his guts for asking her with her icy bro around, but I'm still totally Team Carmen. Averell and Sherby meet the next day as promised, and the little prince shows her the badly drawn, jarring elephants he refers to as Gentusha. They were once monsters, but during the Great War, Agarios, the founder of the Western Empire, tamed them, and when the empire fell, it was divided into two kingdoms, the Garambel and the Mose. The prince goes on to say that the western desert is magnificent except for sandstorms, which are bearable, especially if you use the monostone of sand. Agarios actually left behind two divine artifacts, his great sword and the stone of sand. This date is so adorable, look at him giving her history lessons, so wholesome. Marco meets with Sherby to inform her that the representative he has chosen to oversee their Mose branch is trustworthy, which is fantastic news. Still, before they seal the deal, our girl has to check him out herself. Flexing her cheat status window power. Will you look at that? When they arrive at the Monastery Guild Mose branch, Sherby makes that fake smile because, oh my, the person Marco trusts is a swindler and his name is literally a red flag. Fulton Conman. Let's cut Marco some slack. He's super tired, you guys. She needs proof that Fulton is a swindler, so she checks his thoughts, and it appears that he was unable to hide the ledgers because their visit was abrupt. Their guild is too lavish, so Sherby declares she wishes to safeguard it and asks Sir Lloyd to send knights to watch over it, which Fulton despises. Upon returning to the Mose Palace, Marco joyfully presents the branch ledger to Sherby, and it's so well done that even she can't spot a single mistake in it. So the next day, she chooses to visit Fulton, and when she mentions the ledger, he doesn't appear concerned. So she proceeds to talk more about it and expresses her delight that the Konoha candles are doing well, to which the status window reveals that he is actually selling more than double the amount he declares. The ledger they have is a fake, and Fulton intends to hire a guild to help him hide the real one. Boy, you're scamming the wrong princess! They are currently tracking Fulton's movements, but this guy notices them, so Sherby instructs Lloyd to strike or they will lose the real ledger today. The knights begin fighting off the scammers while Lloyd and Sherby chase Fulton into an alley where he is attempting to climb up a house. I would throw rocks or poke him with a sword, but Mr. Handsome Lloyd has a more charming method of doing it. He effortlessly leaps to the top of the house, gives Fulton a death gaze, causing the man to tremble. Sir Lloyd, aside from guarding, do you do weddings? As my husband? When they get their hands on the actual ledger, Marco immediately blames himself, but Sherby is there to console him. Fulton and the rest of his scam guild were all captured, and it appears that the Mose Kingdom has been tracking them for a long time, so the king personally praises Sherby for her help. A few days later, Sherby and Damian head out to visit the amazing grain fields, the pride of Mose. The king personally recommended Sherby visit the location, and Damian chose to join her because if he did not, Prince Averell would. So even if it interfered with his schedule, he wants to be by her side. This makes Sherby happy since she too wants some alone time with her busy brother, and she wishes that today will be peaceful. Ugh, classic last words before everything goes downhill. A Mose servant leads them to the tea spot they have arranged for them, but Sherby is shocked when a status window of an assassin appears at the top of the wheat field. Worse, she sees many status windows, and the main target is her. So she instantly uses her butterfly communication magic to alert Damian to the assassins hidden in the fields, leading him to become wary of their surroundings. The assassins start their attack, and Damian protects his sister while Lloyd and the other knights fight the assassins. The assassins use a crystal ball, and when Damian attempts to break it with his power, he is shocked to discover that his mana is not working. Sherby decides to use the necklace her father gave her, but it doesn't function. Plus, the mana communication the Mosei servant is carrying is also ineffective. The situation gets worse, so Lloyd requests that they escape, and Damian holds his sister's hand as they run and pledges to protect her at all costs. Sherby and Damian are already out of breath from their running, but the assassins are catching up with them. Damian, as the older one, makes an effort not to show fear, but the truth is that he is unsure whether he can protect her from the professional assassins with his sword skills alone. The assassins eventually catch up, but to their surprise, a luminous magic circle beneath them begins to light up and they are teleported to a ruined site. They may now use magic in this location, and since there are no assassins following them, they decide to explore a bit. Damian uses his mana scan, and it looks like they are the only ones around. They arrive at an open area and spot some ancient texts on the wall known as Elvish. Luckily, Damian can read it a bit. There's a section that mentions Whippic, which is the name of a winter flower, but what really grabs their attention is the part where the nickname of the first emperor is written in Elvish too. Suddenly, something rumbles and a wall opens, prompting them to check it out in the hopes of finding an exit. The vibe is giving a side mission. Damian suspects that the place was created by the first emperor, which makes him eager to learn more about it. They've arrived in a laboratory that's been enchanted with preservation magic, so everything appears to be in great shape. They look around, and when Sherby finds a piece of paper with Elvish letters on it, she asks Damian what it is, and he tells her that it is about fire whirlwind magic being a dark magic. Hearing such words triggers traumatic memories for Sherby, as dark magic is what caused people to detest her and have her killed. Damian is likewise bewildered, given that the first emperor developed the fire whirlwind spell, so he suspects that his understanding of the phrases is not accurate. They discover other texts with the word dark magic, this time concerning Karmen herbs, which baffles both of them because the drawing resembles the Hallman plant they used to prepare tea. Huh? Are Karmen and Hallman the same? Does this imply that the Duke and Empress are spreading dark magic to the people? Damian then becomes very serious and orders Sherby to pretend she saw nothing, because individuals are attacked merely for knowing about dark magic. He believes because he's the crown prince, Duke Pakor will be unable to attack him so carelessly, so he wants to protect Sherby, which touches her heart as she realizes how fortunate she is to have such a loving brother. Sherby is holding a stone she found among the papers, and is shocked when Damian tells her it's a mana stone. It doesn't appear harmful, so he thinks she may keep it. But she hesitates because a mana stone is worth a whole city. Damian thinks they should use the magic circle they saw earlier to leave the ruins, but they don't know where it will take them. Still, they can't stay buried in this area forever, so they enter the magic circle, and Damian uses his mana to light it up. Sherby hears a voice asking where she wants to go so it may transport her there, and she immediately says her father, but the voice refuses, claiming that she is not ready yet. She then expresses her desire to return to Sir Lloyd, and in the blink of an eye, they find themselves in front of him in the Knights. King Abderol expresses his worries about the attack on Damian and Sherby within his kingdom's territory, yet he firmly rejects the notion that Mosei should bear the blame for the assassins, and he emphasizes that no kingdom would dare commit treason in the sacred grain fields. They think it's odd that the assassins and the ruins, which only the imperial family can enter, appear at once. This prompts Damian to conclude that Mosei is convinced everything was orchestrated by the Empire, and he feels that this situation will not be easily settled. Meanwhile, Sherby is certain she's got the stone of sand in her hands because it's the color and how it moves sand, but she's curious if it's okay for her to keep it. As she continues to configure things, Damian knocks on her door, and she's surprised to see that he has brought knights along with him. This leads him to remind her that after the incident, their father sent mages and the captain of the guard, so until they all arrive, he suggests she take knights with her wherever she goes. Soon later, the magicians sent by their father arrive in Mosei, and Damian is shocked to meet the master of the tower. He fears that his presence may lead to war, which also astounds Sherby. This is getting serious. To ease the tension, the tower master activates the communication orb, and their father appears in a flash. Seeing both children brings comfort to their father, causing Sherby to shed tears. The Emperor tells them to return home, but Damian insists on staying to address the situation, and our girl realizes that her father and brother are the most angry she's ever seen them. Sherby then steps forward to request a favor from their father, courageously urging him not to impose punishment on the kingdom of Mosei, prompting a strong reaction from everyone present. She then elaborates that she believes Mosei did not plan the incident, although it occurred in their land, and that she doesn't want their empire to react rashly until the truth is out. Sherby suggests having a discussion about the issue, but her father believes such a discussion is impossible. This prompts her to reveal that she possesses something that may compel them to talk, prompting their father to inquire what it is. To which Sherby discloses that she has the Stone of Sand. The Tower Master himself confirms that what Sherby has is indeed the Mana Sand, but Big Bro still thinks that no discussion can ever resolve the ambush accident. Sherby really doesn't want this to happen, so she tries to come up with a better reason. However, as a regressed lady with only 28% body and soul assimilation, she warns him that she might get really angry. This method is really doing the trick. Just look at this father and son who seem so shocked and are now determined to use the Mana Stone for a positive talk with the king. It's so funny how they switched up just to avoid her getting mad. The peace talks went really well, and the Mana Stone played a big role in that, especially since the Mose Kingdom holds a lot of respect for the fallen Western Empire. Sherby also discovers that Agarios and Erveldote I are friends and are actually travel buddies, so it makes sense that the stone was discovered at the first emperor's place. Sure, history says travel buddies and never lovers. Kidding. When they return home, the Empress is the first to greet them. What a way to ruin the mood! The Empress embraces her son, and Sherby is taken aback when she reads the Empress's outraged thoughts about how the assassins nearly killed her son, although she specifically instructed them to kill only Sherby. Girl, don't be so surprised. This witch is literally trying to get rid of you whenever she can. Not only does the Empress appear, but so does the Duke, who appears to be very furious that Sherby has not been hurt at all. Hating on a child is insane. Our poor girl is overwhelmed by how much the two want her dead, but happily, Daddy arrives, causing her to cry and hug him immediately. Now that the grain issue has been resolved, Sherby can focus on the suspicious Hallman T, so she travels to meet Mason, the Justice Guild's vice guildmaster. She then leads her to their guild, where the guildmaster Delphi appears to have suffered an injury, but he immediately reports that he has a list of people with allergies who died as accidents but were not. Sherby is prepared to compensate him for his services, but first she wants to know how he was hurt, prompting him to disclose that the Pakor people discovered the break-in. He then winks, reassuring her that he was not caught and has even moved his base in case anyone has followed him. When Sherby hears this, she offers to pay him double because she wants him to ensure that everything about this investigation disappears totally. If the Pakor find that someone is looking into Hallman tea allergies, she is certain that the Duke will suspect her because she is the one who has the allergy. Smart move, sweetie! That evening, as Sherby reads the report, she decides she can no longer investigate this alone. So the next day, she presents the information to the Emperor and Damian. This is a major scandal since Hallman tea is used to protect people from hypomonotrophy. So if there is an issue, the entire empire will undoubtedly be shaken. But the fact that the tea is related to dark magic is something they cannot ignore. The Emperor and Damian pledge to begin investigating the tea, but the Emperor is baffled as to how Sherby discovered an information guild on her own. She could just create an excuse, but she would rather not lie to the people who fully trust her. So she tells them that she has a method for locating things, but she can't reveal it just yet. She is still terrified to talk about being executed and regressed, so Daddy carries her, and if she's not threatened, he will gladly wait. This brings her comfort, and she smiles as she shares that her secret actually makes her feel safer. Meanwhile, Duke Pakor learns that someone is slipping into his palace, which makes him wonder if that person is interested in the Hallman tea or the grain agreement. Nonetheless, he blames all of his bad luck on a literal child, our princess. It's totally wild that a grown man is beefing with an 8-year-old girl. It is already spring since Sherby informed her father about the Hallman tea deaths, but they have yet to find any noteworthy evidence. So she decides to meet with the Justice Guild, which she helped relocate near her guild because, being a rich princess means she's got extra buildings to spare. Being young, rich, and cute is the goal. The Duke pays a visit to the Emperor today, so Sherby chooses to stay and read his thoughts. And it looks like this awful man has already discovered that the Emperor has been investigating the Hallman tea. He comes here to report to the Emperor on the response that they have received from the Nabapal, and he advises them not to break their agreement with the kingdom. This is hilarious for the Emperor since, the Nabapal kingdom staged a war to raise the price of rice, prompting the Duke to argue that trusting the Mose kingdom and breaking connections with the Nabapal kingdom isn't the best option. The Emperor slams the table, enraged by the Duke's absurd suggestion, while Sherby, listening to them, becomes intrigued about the relationship between House Pakor and the southern kingdom of Nabapal. It must be tied to dark magic. So can the Emperor just arrest this guy and make him bald? Please? Anyway, Sherby is now certain that the Duke and Nabopol are working together, and she believes that the assassins were dispatched by the Duke to sour relations between the Empire and Mosey. After several days, the Emperor has started to share more about his investigation into the Hallman allergy deaths, which has surprised the ministers. This means the Emperor is challenging the House Pakor, who has maintained exclusive control over the herbs since the Empire's founding. It is actually refreshing that their enemy is not the temple of some sort, but a respected family of their empire. Sherby comes to the guild today, and Tonka hurries to tell her that little Angel is a genius since she's already created a magic circle formula that will boost mana efficiency. Angel was able to design the 12-type magic symbol in her past life, and only the Nabopol Kingdom has access to it, practically forcing Sherby to marry into that country to gain access to the groundbreaking magic formula. Sherby is amazed by Angel's development and promises to assist her and Tonka with any of their magical creations. This will definitely help her father in the future, and she's especially pleased that in this life, the 12-type magic sigil will belong to the Erveldote Empire. Tonka then gives Sherby the herb book she requested, hoping to find anything that works similarly to Hallman. She sees an illustration that resembles Hallman, causing Tonka to explain that it is actually Karmen herbs, which, as you may recall, are the same plant mentioned in the first Emperor's writings. Tonka goes on to state that Karmen herbs are also known as God's Wrath, since legend has it that the god of mana shook off the evils from his flesh, and those that fell to the ground blossomed as Karmen herbs. She now has clues. Karmen leaves are evil, they appear similar to Hallman leaves, and the names are nearly identical, thus the two herbs must be the same leaves, right? Right? But no, our girl still wants to dig into this. Girl, just listen to me and don't waste any more episodes. Sherby chooses to visit the palace treasury to learn more about Karmen and Hallman leaves, but as soon as she enters, she stops in her tracks because she sees what her adoring father did. He framed all of her humble artworks and even has memory orbs of her growing up. That's the club merch, babe! Anyway, she continues moving and reads the first Emperor's journal, in which she discovers that the Emperor strongly encourages the people to use Hallman leaves for their safety. This is confusing Sherby since if Karmen, which is ominous, and Hallman are the same plant, does this suggest the Emperor wants his subjects to consume dark magic? This raises her next question. What is the difference between dark and light magic? She recalls Jaco using blood to open letters when he was a spy, but it wasn't called dark magic. So what separates dark magic from normal magic? Is Karmen really Hallman? Is there no more Hallman, so House Pakor used Karmen instead? Did they make a mistake and lose all Hallman herbs? That's it for today, guys. I have to stop because my brain isn't working anymore. Bye! Kidding. Sherby is on her way to her father's office when she finds Ellie holding a framed artwork she created and about to give it to the Emperor. Yes, she found the suspect. It turns out to be Ellie who has been offering her artworks to the Emperor. This really surprises her, but seeing how happy Ellie is, she decides to overlook it. That's the secretary of Sherby's fan club! The following day, Sherby hears from the Emperor that House Pakor killed Lord Chamberlain, the former Emperor's closest advisor. Now that she thinks about it, this is the first time her father talked about her grandfather, so she wants to know more about what happened. However, her father pauses because hearing her say grandfather to the person who banned her mother from staying in the palace is heartbreaking. But thanks to his thoughts, she now understands why he never mentioned her grandpa. Damian is the one investigating the killings, and he discovered a record indicating that Lord Chamberlain died in a carriage accident. Some witnesses claim that Lord Chamberlain was having secret meetings with the Duke to get Hallman tea before he died, which led Sherby to figure out that, like Jaco's parents, the Lord must have hypomonotrophy. The Duke kills those with allergies and hypomana, putting her in serious danger, so she resolves to reveal that the Mosey assassins were related to House Pakor. The Emperor loses his cool and demands to know how she knows, since they need proof to punish the Duke. But realizing that this must be one of her secrets, he decides to simply comfort his daughter. Time passes, and it's practically the stormy winter season, which means it's almost our little girl's 9th birthday. This year will be extra special since she'll be undergoing her awakening, which only happens once to every mage who has accumulated enough mana in their body. Today, she is overjoyed to see her status window because her body and soul are now 32% assimilated, which means she has more control over her body. The Tower Master guides her to a mountain cave where Sherby must enter alone for her awakening. The truth is that her dad is against her awakening now, wishing that she will wait until everything is settled. But she has a strong feeling that this is the perfect time. She is ready to enter the cave when she reads the Tower Master's thoughts and realizes the Emperor is hiding somewhere. Well, not just him, but Damian is silently cheering for her too. Oh, that's just so sweet. Sherby walks confidently into the cave and shuts her eyes, feeling the energy surrounding her. But the next thing she knows, she wakes up in a bed with her father and brother, who are clearly concerned about her. She looks at her hand and notices more power flowing from her, and she is surprised to learn that it has been 3 days since she entered the cave. I've seen worse. At least it's not months or years. Her awakening seemed like a dream to her, and she remembers having wings and playing with other fairy-like children. She even healed one of the fairies, so she is stunned to learn that it has been 3 days since then. Her reaction worries her father and brother, prompting them to call a doctor immediately. And yes, they are so serious that she cannot do anything to stop them. According to Ellie's information, the moment her awakening begins, a sudden mana storm erupts, flowing through the mouth of the cave as if it's being sucked inside. After the mana flow stabilized, everyone hurried into the cave and discovered her peacefully asleep, which explained the presence of the bed. Ellie and Jane then congratulate her as she is now officially a mage. Soon after, Sherby meets with Carmen, who shyly gives her a bracelet to celebrate her upcoming birthday, and Sherby really loves it. He says it's nothing special, but our girl is so shocked when he says that it actually has spatial manipulation magic in it. It is a high-level magic, so she feels bad accepting such a gift, but she eventually gives him a warm smile and expresses her heartfelt thanks, causing Carmen to blush. Anyway, we all know that their biggest problem is that they can't be suspicious of Hallman because the first emperor ordered the Pakor family to supervise it, right? No one has access to it except for the emperor's box, which contains Hallman leaf seeds for examination. The catch is that the box contains a spell, and when opened, the Duke will be notified. You know who cast the spell? It's the emperor himself. You see, he has always been doubtful of Hallman herbs being managed by a single house, and the imperial family is not even permitted to question it. When the war broke out, he lost his opportunity to investigate, and he couldn't refuse the arranged marriage with House Pakor because the empire isn't stable yet, so all he can do is take the box. But he was obliged to cast a spell on it, allowing him to access it only during a crisis. The reason they are only opening it now is because the inclement weather will interfere with the communication spell, preventing Duke Pakor from knowing when it opens. They conduct simple experiments with the Hallman, and the water always turns dark, indicating that it's unsafe to drink. Sherby has finally found out why she was killed in her previous life, and the answer is simple. All residents of the Empire are taught to drink Hallman tea or die from hypomonotrophy before they reach adulthood, correct? But what if those who can't drink it due to allergies grew up to be healthy adults? This will undoubtedly cause everyone to distrust the tea. Therefore, House Pakor makes certain to kill everyone with an allergy and adults who consumed it but still developed hypomonotrophy. So this is why they hate our girl? Men from the Imperial Palace are currently informing Duke Pakor that they will formally start a full-scale investigation into his embezzlement case. But what really surprises him is that they will also investigate him for the Hallman allergy death case. Sherby is now studying history and discovers that there were 5 ducal families in the past, but only House Pakor remains. The other houses had either given up on succession or lacked male heirs, which is really strange given that all 4 houses simply disappeared. I wouldn't be surprised if House Pakor did anything to them. As she walks, she notices an unusual mage, and after reading his thoughts, it appears that he has devised monsters and disasters to destroy the Empire. The mage suddenly vanishes, but Sherby is certain that the mage was talking about the monsters in the Kujad mines, which means Carmen, my boy, is in danger. Ugh, can this girl catch a break already? It's like one problem after another. Sherby is now on her way to the Kujad mines, having persuaded the Tower Master that she saw a suspicious figure. As soon as they arrive, they discover a swarm of monsters outside the mine, but owing to Carmen's fire magic, no one can enter. Sherby alerts Carmen that they are nearby, so he turns off the fire for a bit to allow everyone to enter the mine safely. She is overjoyed that Carmen is safe and instantly gives him a hug, prompting this kid to turn red and malfunction. They proceed deeper into the mine where the workers are, and Sherby is astonished to discover the guildmaster there. Damian actually suggested that Carmen contact the Justice Guild for assistance with his investigations. But what is more intriguing is that the weird mage Sherby spotted earlier is also present, tied, and drained of mana. The Tower Master suspects that the man is experiencing mana overflow, which is what allows you to summon monsters. My boyfie, Sir Lloyd, believes that there's a werewolf king outside since more monsters gather when the king is present, which means they only need to kill the king. But this is more difficult than it appears because there is no way to tell which one is the king. That's easy peasy for our girl because she can simply identify who is the title werewolf king on their status window. They are all confused, but Sherby boldly claims that she can find the king, convincing them to believe her and begin the plan to prevent the monsters from attacking the nearby town. Before they continue their attack, they notice one man with serious bleeding, so Sherby decides to try to heal him. And wow, the boy has entirely healed! Apparently she can also purify the bloody bandages. Lloyd carries Sherby and uses ninja moves to go to a higher position where she can observe all of the monsters below. As soon as she spots the werewolf king, she marks it with a gold butterfly so Carmen could kill it with his incredible lightning powers. However, the beasts are still not separating, which leads them to believe that there is another werewolf king in the pack. Before they can react, the king roars, and the monsters charge into the town, forcing the old man Tower Master to use his power to keep them at bay, but only for a short time. Sherby quickly searches for the werewolf king, but it appears to have already hidden itself, so she is beginning to panic. The Emperor arrives, and with the simple command, "Disappear," he toasts the entire pack of beasts with his vast firepower. Such a flex! Among the reinforcements provided by the Emperor, Sherby is astonished to discover Tonka, the ever-lazy librarian, fending off the remaining monsters. Look at this unfortunate boy! His neck is already aching, but he appears to have been dispatched, and even the Emperor acknowledges his magical abilities. Seaweed Boy trembles and bows down, stating that he only used a mana booster made by a child from the center. But the truth is that he just doesn't want anyone to know since, as you know, the more competent you are, the more responsibility you receive. Let this man sleep! Carmen notifies the Emperor that Wilhelm the Wizard destroyed an orb to disrupt the mana flow, so they try to get him to spill the beans, but his mouth is shut, and Sherby realizes that this person is actually Duke Pakor's spy. Wilhelm merely laughs at them and bites something, killing him instantly. That evening, the Duke learns the news and is outraged since his plan to exploit the monster attack as a distraction to launch a rebellion failed. He blames our princess again, and this time it appears that he intends to kill her more openly. He is becoming crazy by the day! The next day, when the Emperor discovers that Sherby has healing powers, he feels proud and summons everyone, only to boast about how amazing his daughter is. She becomes very shy, but she gladly takes all of their congratulations. As a fan club member, you earned it, sweetheart. Sherby visits the guild today, and Mason informs her that there's a rumor circulating among several information guilds that someone is looking to hire a professional assassin. This gives her goosebumps, and she fears they're attempting to attack either her father or her brother. Girl, they are clearly after you! Sherby is now inside the carriage on the ride back to the palace when a knight notifies Lloyd that the road has been blocked by some men and that they should take another route. They may look cute with those smiles, but they can't hide their assassin status from the princess, who promptly informs Lloyd that it's an ambush. Lloyd and the knights are now fighting the assassins, but it appears that there are more in the woods, so Sherby uses the necklace to protect herself and the coachman. A story that doesn't leave the coachman out? I'm loving our girl even more! Also, Sherby is now a real mage, so she can use more powerful magic, such as ice spheres, to strike, but she is surprised when it gets blocked. These men are using an item that blocks magic, so they are at a serious disadvantage, and Lloyd believes Sherby should retreat now. Sherby runs away, and the coachman suggests they hide in the welfare center, but she doesn't want to endanger the children, so she jumps off the carriage to confuse the assassins. Sherby runs, attempting to locate the restaurant owned by the Justice Guild, but she has to use extreme caution because assassins are already everywhere. When she finally finds the restaurant, she spots a status window that says Secret Passage, so she quickly uses it just in time for the assassins to enter. Did she just level up? Not only can she view a person's status window, but also inanimate things? She decides to follow the path of the secret passage, and to her surprise, she exits at the outskirts. But she can't rest because it appears that assassins are also scouring the area. She is feeling overwhelmed and about to cry when Jaco appears and guides her to a safer location where the other children are. They appear to have spread out to find her, and now that she is here, Jaco breaks an item he received from Tonka that can reveal their location. A massive mana flow appears, and to her relief, It is Papa who quickly embraces her. Feeling his warmth, she eventually breaks down and begins crying her heart out, admitting how terrified she was. "Aw, my baby!" Today, Wyan, the former Lord Chamberlain's servant, presents himself and informs them that the person with hypomonotrophy was not the Lord Chamberlain, but the previous Emperor. The Lord Chamberlain went home drunk one night, mentioning the Emperor's illness, which had not improved despite the cure he received from Duke Pakor. When the former Emperor died, the Lord Chamberlain became enraged and went somewhere, only to die in a carriage accident. This just means that the Duke killed the former Emperor, causing the Emperor to radiate an evil aura before instructing Damian to keep Wyan safe as a witness. The fact that none of the assassins he hired were successful in killing a 9-year-old girl has Duke Pakor in a rage. Isn't that hilarious? He is currently focused on erasing any trace of their attempted princess assassination. Such a waste of a beautiful face! Please, go bald! Mr. Guildmaster is now attempting to sneak inside the hypomonotrophy clinic. Unfortunately, the guards are suddenly summoned over, allowing him to gain entry. However, he is unaware that there is a detector, but there is no need to fear because he is safe thanks to the item that the Emperor lent him. It's always a delight to see the Duke freak out, and now it's about his hypomonotropy clinic having everything taken away. He attempts to reach out to the Empress, but good luck with that, dude! The Emperor totally made sure all her comms are shut down. Borgher manages to reach the princess, but due to all his sneaky efforts, he got hurt and can't say anything because of a silencing spell. Sherby takes care of his wounds first while he is doing his best to stay awake and share a code with Mason, likely the location of the hidden documents. But his body just can't handle it anymore, and he falls fast asleep. Since Sherby has read his mind, she shares the code with Mason and instantly knows what it is. As soon as they get their hands on the documents that the Guildmaster took, they quickly raid Pakor's house. But it turns out the Duke has already made his escape. Sherby bolts outside, sharing that she knows just where to find a clue about the Duke's whereabouts, by reading the Empress's mind. The Empress is currently under house arrest, so when Sherby meets her, the Empress immediately feels like she's being mocked. Sherby has always been curious about this, so she asks the Empress why she hates her so much. The answer is quite straightforward. It's because she's a proper child born from a commoner and the Emperor. There it is. The Emperor really only had feelings for Sherby's mother. Sherby is a bit puzzled about why the Empress refers to her as a proper child, but now that she has her answer, she goes to ask where Duke Pakor is. After reading the Empress's mind, she knows that the Duke is in a safe house outside the city, using a passage under his office. They discovered a tunnel inside the Pakor manor, but as they moved ahead, they were ambushed by the Pakor Knights. It turns out the Knights were trying to lead them in another direction before pressing a button. A huge metal wall emerges, keeping Sherby separated from the Emperor, but luckily Sherby has Sir Lloyd by her side. The Emperor could use his fire magic, but the tunnel is too narrow, and he might accidentally hurt Sherby. So they have to take their time and break it slowly. Sherby decides she can't wait any longer, so she tells her father that she's going to see what's at the end of the tunnel. As they step outside, they notice a blood stain on the ground, and with the help of the status window, Sherby quickly figures out where the Duke is hiding. Oh, would you look at that! The dashing Duke, the evil Duke has been stabbed in the side and isn't doing so well. But Sherby has chosen to hold off on healing him for now. She first asks if he was the one who spread the plague in Garambel, but from reading his mind, it seems that he isn't the mastermind. He even suspects that the Nabapal might be responsible. She then asks about the assassin sent to Mose, and once more, the Nabapal is involved. In addition to that, the Nabapal were also connected to the treasury incident and had plans to take the first Emperor's old staff. I think the Nabapal is the greater threat that Sherby needs to deal with. She asks her last question and is genuinely curious about why House Pakor, the next most powerful family after the Imperial family, is involved in such crimes. The Duke starts laughing, pointing out that even though they are second to the Imperial family, not a single person with magic has been born into their family. Now that she thinks about it, the House Pakor has quite a few political marriages with mages, but none of them have resulted in a mage. The Duke shares that the first Emperor was the one who placed a curse on his family while pretending to entrust them with Hallman. Sherby feels a bit puzzled and wonders if they might have swapped Hallman leaves for something else, like the Carmen. This thought makes the Duke chuckle to himself, as he realizes that the palace treasury lacks the first Emperor's records, and he secretly hopes the Imperial family stays unaware of the truth. The Duke raises his voice, enraged, because despite the fact that the House Pakor helped establish the Empire, only the Erveldote family possesses magic. She can't believe he has this mentality, so she tells him that many Pakor members have accomplished great things without being mages, and they also have Damian, who's now a crown prince and a mage. This guy snickers, pleased that Damian has broken free from the curse, which was achieved with the use of a magical conception that made him look like the Emperor but with Pakor blood. So no sleeping together, just a magic baby. He mentions that they went against a rule to achieve this, since House Pakor is actually not allowed to marry into the imperial family. This time, Sherby is shouting, eager to find out where all the evidence of his crimes are hidden, but he bites something and kills himself. The Emperor arrives, and Sherby suggests they collect some of the Duke's blood, as she believes it might lead them to the hidden evidence. They make their way back to the tunnel, and with Sherby's level-up status window, she discovers the hidden spot at the dead end. They splatter the wall with the Duke's blood, and after months of searching for evidence, they discover a whole room full of it. Sherby finds the Duke's notebook and discovers that he murdered his father. The Emperor then finds the first Emperor's record, which reveals that he assigned a sacred duty to each dukedom. The House Pakor, who were not born with mana, are instructed to manage Carmen with the condition that they reveal the truth after 200 years. But oh boy, it has been 500 years since the first Emperor's time, and the Pakor family has kept it buried. The 5 dukedoms are meant to fulfill their duty and disappear, just like the other 4 families did. However, the House Pakor chose a different path and pretended to continue their duty to strengthen their power. I mean, they made a contribution, but will eventually be demoted? I say the dukedoms have the right to be salty. Anyway, the Emperor is pleased that they found what they were looking for, and he gives Sherby a gentle pat on the head, saying it's time to head back home. At last, Sherby can take a breather because she has finally stopped her future death, and in this second life, she will become an adult. I'm so happy for this precious baby. You've been through so much. Even so, many questions remain unsolved, such as whether the first Emperor was dumb. Kidding. I mean, why would he push his people to ingest Carmen, and what is Carmen meant to do to them? Regardless, that's for later because Sherby has finally decided to tell her father and brother the truth. When she claims to have returned in time, the boys are confused, but they trust she will never lie to them. Oh, to be unconditionally loved! Sherby can now continue her story about returning to her 5-year-old body and being able to see people's statuses and thoughts, as well as locate items, which explains why she is so perceptive. The Emperor then asks why she had to go back in time, causing Sherby to tremble, but she manages to disclose that she was labeled a witch, causing everyone to despise her, and that he was the one who sentenced her to death before she reached adulthood. Both the Emperor and Damian are left speechless until their dad speaks up, expressing that he believes everything she said. However, what he can't wrap his head around is the fact that it was he who killed her in her past life. He gives his daughter a warm hug as she nervously shares that she was framed with dark magic, insisting that she would never do something like that. He assures her that even if she becomes a dark mage, he will always stand by her side. Damian expresses the same sentiment, making her cry tears of joy, grateful for their undying trust in her. At last, the truth has come to light! That evening, Carmen pays a visit to Sherby to show her a diamond-shaped item, which is actually the exact same thing he used to execute her in her past life. He explains that it is an ancient tool for spatial manipulation and wants to show it to her. As Sherby looks at it, she notices that it is the same red diamond that is always at the bottom of the status display, so she touches it, but to their disbelief, it crumbles and disappears. After Carmen has ensured that his crushie is fine, he smiles confidently, claiming that it's not her fault. But deep down, this lad is sweating buckets over how to explain this to the Tower Master. Sherby can't sleep that night, so she decides to check the status window, and whoa! The red diamond in it has changed, almost like it's sticking out. She becomes curious and touches it, which causes a letter to appear. To her surprise, it's her father's letter from her past life. In it, her dad expresses his apologies for not being more expressive in his love for her, and he hopes that she will have the opportunity to be a cherished child in her second chance at life. He knows that he may not be the perfect father, but he hopes that his love finds its way to her, helping Sherby realize that the red diamond item that caused her death was actually used to save her. Oh my gosh, so Carmen and her dad teamed up to help her escape that hellish life! My heart! Sherby begins to cry, feeling grateful that her father always believed in her. The closure I never thought we'd get! I'm not crying. You are. Life is not all sunshine because the news of Duke Pakor's death reached the Prince of Nabapal, who received a final warning from him to be wary of the princess, prompting this nasty guy to smirk. Sherby's status window has advanced to the point where she can control it and prevent it from appearing randomly. She also discovers that her father included the assimilation mechanism to ensure that she does not mature too quickly and may enjoy her second life as a child. Time goes swiftly, and our girl is now 14 years old and even lovelier. Goodbye, squishable cheeks. Anyway, a lot has changed since people stopped drinking Holman tea, but Sherby's next target of suspicion is the climactic magic circle, which is the reason people had to drink the tea since it allegedly disturbs mana. Good heavens, Carmen has gotten more prince-like, so it's no wonder that many girls are fangirling over him. But even after all these years, he just simps for one girl, Sherby. My ship is about to set sail. Everyone aboard! They are checking climate sigils, starting with the one that is in the palace. Every city is protected by a climate sigil, which is regulated by this one, the palace's central sigil. To determine whether the climate sigils truly disrupt mana, they must undo the first Emperor seal on it, something only an Imperial member can do. Sherby meticulously examines the sigil's formula, and while it does disrupt mana, it is so little that one may naturally recover. Therefore, it makes no sense that the first Emperor commanded everyone to take Holman. They're at the annual spring picnic, and our girl is just casually holding Carmen, completely unaware that this guy is feeling all stiff and nervous. She is at the age when Imperial members take part in official meetings, and in her past life, the Prince of Nabapal was actually her fiancé. But in this life, even though she really wants to read the prince's thoughts, she can't because her dad and big bro won't allow it. Actually, the two are really quick to react to every guy, just like now. The ever-handsome Emperor is giving Carmen such a fierce look that Sherby just let go of him right away. Good luck, bud! Sherby is now a pre-debutante, and it brings back memories of her past life when ladies didn't seem to like her simply because of her outfit. At that time, a count's daughter lost her brooch, and a red-haired lady was accused, which unfortunately led to her being ostracized in high society. Eventually, the truth came out and she was forgiven, but by then the scandal had already caused her a lot of pain. Sherby was also going through a tough time with false rumors, and it was the lady who stepped in to offer her comfort. Grateful for the support, Sherby is determined to help her avoid any false accusations in this life. Today, Big Bro Damian is helping her with her dresses, and it looks like he still sees her as a little sister because he wants her to have a dress with wings. Sherby is totally not having it, and Damian's over there getting all emotional, like, so adorable. Everything is going well at the center. Angel has created the 12-type magic symbol thanks to Tonka's lessons. Marco is now a guild master and built their 10th Kanoa farm, which people are using instead of Holman, and Jago retains his Nabapal spy status. He laughs suspiciously in the corner, but it's a false alarm. He's simply relieved that no one noticed he had been slacking off for 3 minutes. Same, Jaco, same. But why is he still a spy? Is he under a spell? And that's it for today, guys. What did you think? As always, don't forget to like the video and comment for the next part so we know you want more. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for updates. See you in the next one!